Hello! How are we all doing? That took a while tonight, didn't it? You know, when you get nervy as you're looking at it, you hit go live and nothing happens. Anyway, I think we're all right now. So I'll let Mike tell me whether we actually are or not before I start saying hello to everybody. But I can see you all in the chat having a rare old time. So shall we zoom in?
You're live.
Yay, we're live. So hello, Debbie S. Congratulations, first in. Closely followed by Carol. Why isn't it increasing my size? Oh, that's better. Right. And we have young Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. Oh, and Carol. Hello, Carol and Peter. And we're full complement of Carols, I see. Hello, Carol. And we have Deb. CQ, Deb. Hello, Paul. How's work? Let us know. Hello, Ted. Good to have you with us. Hello, Graham. Oh, one and all in the building. Hello, Tony. And hello, Renee. Oh, look at this. Renee is in there, so welcoming everybody. That's what I like to see. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Right, who else have we got? Peter says, cannot believe a week has just evaporated so quickly, but always fab to see us. That's what I keep thinking. How is it Friday? I swear yesterday was Monday. But it's been that kind of week, hasn't it, Mike?
It has.
Now I've got some kind of block of text getting in my way, but never mind.
Oh.
I'll carry on past that. Hello, Kim. Missed you last week, Kim. Wasn't it the bank you were arguing with?
It was credit cards.
Credit card. That's even worse. I had to ring them once, you know. I forgot to pay it. So obviously there was like a £50 fine. So I rang them up and said, I've never forgotten before. Humble apologies. You know, could you possibly make an exception? And they did.
I did that.
I was impressed with my little self.
I did that once.
Because you know how much I like being on the phone, don't you? Yeah. I was impressed with my little self. Anyway, never mind. That was me in the bank. I don't talk to them often. A lot less than they would like me to talk to them. Put it like that. Right, fingers crossed, everything's just going to work like it didn't last week, and we'll see how we get on. So, what have we got tonight? Oh, so far so good. That's working. Excellent. Quite busy. You can always tell by the size of the font. I've had to take it quite small. But we have the week at MacBites headquarters, and then I have a discount for you. I'm not 100% sure that I could share the email, but that doesn't actually help us, does it? So what I've got is a link to a specially discounted Dropzone that even if you've got Dropzone, you might still be interested in. So I'll explain all of that. Then we've got some quality of life updates to Notion, one of which I don't have. Peeved? Yes. But the thing is, you might have it.
When everyone else had XLOOKUP and I didn't.
Yes, it's random.
Yeah.
I hate that. Either give it everybody or give it nobody. But I have seen it in action, but it's not on my account. So we're going to take a straw poll, see if it's on your account, but it's not on my account. Then last week, I promised to look at how I use Google Docs. So basically just a document, but why is it in Google Docs? Because I've got a million other places it could be. Why is it in Google Docs? So I will show you a real life document. Then I'm in the middle of a blog post. Yes, I know. Time to put the buntings out, isn't it, Mike? Blog post. But I needed to make a video. And I needed to show the passage of time in a video. So having done it, I thought, that would be a good one to share. So I'm sharing it with you. Then we've got the third and final part of our presenting data, where we're actually looking at PowerPoint charts. Now Excel's fixed, we're looking at PowerPoint charts. All will become clear later. Mike is working with dates, part 3. And then we are following up last week's Affinity Designer session by popular demand with more styles, and even more. So, let me know what YouTube did to you. It's been all over the place with me this week. Do you know what else I've had fun and games with, Mike?
What?
Not just the 1080p
480.
thing. Oh, Mike.
Yeah.
And you didn't notice?
No, I wasn't looking at the screen.
I won't take it personally, don't
I'm
I?
trying to finish my Excel demo off.
Oh, naughty. No, I watch some videos other than at 1 speed. And I've noticed it doesn't always remember that. Now, if I've got it at more than 1 speed, because it's a tutorial and they're talking that slow, I could nod off and have a 3-course meal between sentences. That's fine. But when it goes onto a music video, that doesn't kind of work. It also didn't work with the Sherlock Holmes films that I watched the other day. So make sure you've got the right speed as well. But I think you're okay because we're live. But there is a like button down there. So you could go and bother the like button. That would be marvellous. So, last Saturday. Oh, it was a good day, but only just. Yes, United were playing, so obviously there were nerves in a certain quarter of the office, but he needn't have worried. Although by the time they actually got to scoring, which was 3 minutes into injury time, one, Mike had given up, and two, he was out walking the dog. There was a celebration involved, wasn't there, Mike?
There was.
And Lola has not forgiven him. The embarrassment of walking around with Mike at the other end of the lead, doing a silly dance. She's not forgiven him since. But they did win, but only just. Oh, and that took me on to Sunday. Sunday was fun, wasn't it? Mike has got a new video up there. Why don't you put the link into your video, Mike?
I could do.
Your dates thing. The problem with it was Mike put up his video and YouTube were kind of indifferent to it, weren't they? No matter what you searched for, it wasn't there. I said, leave it to me. Hold my beer while I go and optimise this video. Within 10 minutes, he was at number 3. I'm good at that, aren't I?
You are.
I am. But you see, it's not just about putting a video up on YouTube. No, it's persuading YouTube to actually show it to people. Particularly when the 2 videos above it have had 80,000 views and 329,000 views. And Mike's had 40. But, that wasn't bad in 4 days. We're working on it. And at least he's number 3. Oh, then I decided I would do the book club thing. I must admit, I was in 2 minds. It was a book about, it said it was well-being, but I thought, it's going to be health and fitness and ride a bike and do push-ups. Do I look? I was built for comfort, not speed. Does this look like me? But I thought, no, trust in it and go do it. It's not as bad as I thought. It's 5 principles of well-being or something. So I'm sticking with it for the moment. We'll see how that goes. Monday was very interesting. You'll possibly be intrigued or horrified. Let me know in the chat. Intrigued or horrified that I spent the entire day looking at a new software solution. I didn't intend to. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. But you know what it's like, and you do. It's a little bit like Notion crossed with Asana crossed with Trello. It's lists and things. Now, no, I'm not leaving Notion anytime soon. But there's certain things that Notion, while I could build it, life's too short. Like you could move into a caravan and build your perfect house, but it takes you 10 years. So just buy one. That. So I will see how that goes. And if you're interested in it, let me know. We could look at that. Now, Tuesday, Mike and I had the whole day planned. It was going to be amazing. But it was going to be amazing because we both booked time off to go to a Hindenburg conference. Hindenburg being the audio editor that we both use. So I booked on it and I thought to myself, I need to tell Mike about that. And then he said to me, I booked on a Hindenburg conference. Did you see it? So I said, yeah, I booked on that. Anyway, we both booked on it. So bedtime on Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, they cancelled it. I was distraught as well. So I had the dubious pleasure of telling Mike, as I staggered into bed about 4 o'clock, the Hindenburg conference is off. So they didn't get enough people interested. So the next time it's on, I'm going to tell all you guys, just book on it. You don't want to go. As long as you book, they'll put it on and I can watch it. But it was cancelled, so I was peeved. Luckily, as luck would have it, the very same day was the launch party for WordPress 5.9. So we went to that party instead. It was one of those things where it's like, that's nice, and that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Are you installing it? No, not yet. Let's everybody else take the hit on that. And when it's stable, let me know, and then I'll have a look at it. So that took us through to Wednesday. We caught the girl mid-snooze. Just look at her little face. Yes, that is a squeaky toy under her leg. And every time she moved, it squeaked. Too cute. Now, the thing is, if she can't see us, she assumes we can't see her. It's logic with dogs, this. So while she was away with the fairies, there we were taking photos. But she spotted us. Look at that face. You know when you can see the whites of their eyes? She was shocked. Like I'm saying, her logic is if she can't see us, we can't see her. But girl, you were wrong there. Look at that face. Which took me on to Thursday. You're going to like this. If you've been with us a while, this will bring back happy memories. If you've not, you might wonder what on earth is going on. But let me explain. It wasn't this Christmas, was it? It was the one before. So let's travel back in time over 12 months. Mike took Lola out for a walk. It was snowing. And the pair of them found a frozen chicken on the pub wall.
Kim will remember that one.
Kim will remember that one. Yeah, we were wondering why there was a chicken on the pub wall. But it was definitely a chicken on the pub wall. As you can see, used by the 24th of January. That was 2021. The week after that, same pub wall, and the chicken would appear to have had an offspring. In answer to what comes first, the chicken or the egg, apparently the chicken. It just multiplies itself. So that was the week after, same wall. Well, they were out for their walk, weren't you? We titled this one A Mother and Child Reunion. But the same wall, not looking too healthy right now. Must have been the chickens that did it. It proved too much for the wall. Now that may be Lola's tail. Low down in that picture.
Oh, it is Lola's tail.
It is Lola's tail. But she was completely innocent in all this. She did not headbutt the wall and it collapsed. They found it like that. But needless to say, the supervisor was quick to inspect the damage and look for more abandoned chickens, obviously. Do you still like that at the moment?
Yeah.
No, not gone and sorted it
No,
yet.
it's still like that tonight.
We don't think it was hit by a car because there's no marks on it. It was probably the chickens. The chickens took revenge overnight. Oh, couldn't make it up. While all that was happening, because that was late on, wasn't it? It was the Apple's earning call last night. Yes, I did sit through it all, so you don't have to. It sounded, because I pointed it out to you, didn't I? It sounded like it was the commentary on a World Cup match from the 60s down a phone line. It was the audio quality was absolutely appalling. Let me summarise it for you. Best quarter ever. That's all you need to know. Moving swiftly along. Oh, so that took us to today. And here we are in after hours. Right, first things first, this discount for Dropzone. Right, Dropzone 4 is a utility app, but we can't live without it at MacBites headquarters. It is the app that powers the black hole. This is one of Kim's favourites, isn't it? It's the black hole. The black hole started life as an app that you installed on two machines, and it put that icon on the desktop. And it did a simple job. You just dragged a file to it, and it disappeared down the black hole and appeared on the desktop of the other machine. That was all it did. Since then, we have refined and refined and refined and refined it, and it now works offline, online, in the cloud, out the cloud. We've sorted it. But the app that powers it is Dropzone. So it's very simple. You just drag whatever you want to send to wherever you want to send it using the arrow button on the left-hand side of that menu bar. And that app is Dropzone 4. Now, we use Dropzone 4 Pro. If you've got Setup, it's already included. So you're sorted. But if not, you need to consider the options. The options are there is a subscription, but the subscription is the only thing you've got if you're going through the store. But there is a lifetime offer. So in the store, it just says get and there's an in-app purchase. And when you get down to the bottom and you look at the in-app purchase says $1.99. This is a particular pet peeve of mine. $1.99 for what? A month, a minute, a lifetime? What? Doesn't say. But that's actually per month. I think that box should be made 10 times bigger and give you all the details. But if you get it from the store and you pay for that, you're paying a subscription for it. But there is an alternative to that, which is on their own website. You can download it and use a trial, but you can also buy the thing for $35. And it says unlock all the Dropzone 4 features by purchasing a Dropzone 4 Pro lifetime for $35, or you can have a subscription for $1.99. But you know, It's highly recommended by us. If you want to take it for a spin for a month, there's a $1.99 option. But once you realise how fabulous it is, you'll probably want the lifetime licence. So the price for that is $35. Now this is where you need to post this link in, Mike, that I know it's long, but needs to be done. There is currently a 35% off sale on it. The link will take you directly to Paddle. We love Paddle. Not. But Paddle is the payment processing service, and it automatically applies a coupon. Now mine's in pounds because my Paddle account is in pounds. There is a coupon code there, and you can copy it if you like. I don't know if it's going to work or not, because I don't know what page you need to go to actually use it. So that's why we're going to put a link in the chat that is the direct link that should apply that discount to it. So you would only pay the equivalent of £18.65, which is 35% off. So that's the long version of saying there's a discount.
Carol says she sees Dropzone in setup, but it doesn't mention Pro.
It should be Pro if it's in there, because the Pro feature is that it's not a trial. So try it in setup first. I can show you what it actually does on my machine. So if we switch over to that, this is what I have up here. So this is Dropzone. So when I click on it, this is all configurable. So what I have in mine may not be what you have in yours, because it's configurable completely. But what I've got here is I've got Eagle. So if I dragged and drop images into there, it would put them straight into Eagle. This is my black hole for Mike, so drops for Mike. This is where I send it to my archive. So if I've got something that I've used and I don't particularly want to save it or put it anywhere, I just put it in the archive and it deals with it itself. This goes to the downloads folder, and this is my MacBites inbox. So the ones at the top, all of these, oh, that's red again. It was orange the other day. All the ones at the top of are locations. So they are folders or they are applications. You'll see at the bottom, it says actions. So these are icons that do something. One of the ones that is way more fascinating than it should be is this say text one. So sometimes I've got text and I want the system to read it to me, but it isn't supported in the application that the text is in, which is very annoying. I don't think Vivaldi supports that, reading of text. So if I just select the text and drag and drop it onto that icon, speech bubble icon, it will read it to me. The system will read it to me. This will zip anything I add to it. So the lower half of this is actions, but the top half is destinations. So if I had something, what have I got here? I've got a watermark from last week. Remember that watermark I had last week? That one. If I were to take that and I wanted Mike to have a copy, I would drag it up there, and if I just drop it, it will move it. If I hold down my option key, it will make a copy. You get a little indication up there very quickly, moving along, that it's dragging and dropping the file, and then it will be in Mike's black hole. So he knows which folder to go to get that. And that's how we transfer files to each other. Now, you don't need to understand all of this, but sometimes, this was when he used to go to work, leave the house, Mike would turn his computer off. Yes, I think that's strange as well, but Mike didn't. So when I was sending files to him here, and that was on his machine, it had to be turned on. Now it doesn't need to, and Mike can send things to himself from work if he wants. The black hole lives in the Dropbox in here, black hole. And there's drops for me, drops for Mike, and drops for printing. So it's now cloud enabled. If you want to know more about that, I do think I put the link in there, or maybe I didn't. But it was an old show. So let me move that back over there and to get that up. And where did I have the date of that? Let me whip back. I had a show where we talked about it. So let me get the details of that being here. Oh, it isn't. Where's it disappeared to? It was, I think it was 81. It was January 2020, I think. You just have a look when 81 was. No, it'd have been after that, wouldn't it? I think it was 81. The full story of the black hole. Did I put it in one of these? I did. There it is. 91.
You got it.
91 on the 28th of August 2020. So it was episode 91. I explained the whole scenario, but it's Dropzone that powers that. Right, okay, let's have a look at the Notion updates. Are they exciting? Depends. For some people, they could be very exciting. For me, probably less so. But let's go and have a look at them anyway. Right. Oh, Kim's just bought it. Excellent. Should I have an affiliate link? I don't think they do things like affiliate links. Right, what I'm going to do... Where's my mouse pointer? Where have you gone? Oh, no, it's disappeared. There it is. Right. I'm just going to go to the page for today's show, which is in here. So this is my show inside Notion for today. Right, I've got the Quick Brown Fox at the bottom. This isn't just, because I feel like it. This is one of the updates that I don't have. So your mission, should you decide to accept it, is when I've explained what it is, go and have a look if you've got a Notion account and let me know. Have you got it? Because I haven't. These are 3 blocks. They are indicated by the domino next to it and the plus. So each one of these has this, and you can drag them around. You can drag them up and down. You could drag them side by side. They are blocks. And I've got them one on top of the other. You can be quite precise in your selection inside it, but only within the block. If I wanted to select this bit of this block and part of that block, it automatically selects all the blocks, both of them, or however many you're trying to select across. If I wanted the last couple of words of that one down to the first of these, it just selects them all. That is a pain if you're trying to format things and you want it as if it was like a Word document or a Google Doc. It's a major pain. The update is precise selection across blocks. Not enabled for me. Not yet. Everybody is supposed to have it by Monday. I will probably be the last person that's updated. Peeved much? Oh, yes, absolutely. So let me know in the chat. Go try it. All you need to do is make a selection within a block and then try and select a little bit of the block above it. Mine twangs doing the old thing, but yours might not. Yours might let you do it. Well, that's the first thing. Right, what else did we have? We had the toggle headings that we've already talked about. So if we were to go in here and do a heading, we still have marked as new, and this is under advanced blocks. We have the heading, the toggle heading 1, 2 and 3. And all that gives you is a heading that you can get inside and put things inside. So if we wanted to drag our Quick Brown Fox into there, we can then fold it up. So how I'm particularly using that is like in here, where I have what the updates are. Oh, I didn't make them toggles. I didn't. No, I did in the other one, but I didn't in there. But what I'm usually doing with that when I'm using it is toggling it. You can see here, the slides are toggleable, but that's not a heading. It could be now. If I wanted that slide heading to be bigger, then it could be. But I haven't done that yet. Might do that in the template, who knows. But that's what we've got. We've got the toggle headings in there. Right, what else did we have? Oh, one that Mike missed. You missed this, didn't you? Right, if I go into this table, this is the content items for tonight's show. So the content items is a linked table that is linked to from the shows. And obviously, I'd be doing a check. That M means Mike's in the Dropzone one at the moment. But in here, if I'm doing a check of the show before I go live, then I'm probably going to go into the Dropzone one. And I'm going to have a look and make sure I've got my notes. And there's my notes, the links that I need. And then we had to come out and then go into the next one. But I'm going to go back into the Dropzone one. It's a pain in the backside because you're in and out, in and out. And we now have these buttons. Oh, we do. These 2 buttons up here. Now, when you hover over those, it tells you the previous page in the database or the next page in the database. And it's talking about this database behind this record going up and down from it. There's even shortcut keys, which are the standard shortcut keys for backwards and forwards in a lot of video editors. Command and K. Well, that's a control and K and control and J, but forwards and backwards. So the next item would be the Notion one. And then there would be the Google Docs, and then there would be the Time one. And in essence, it's just a quick way to navigate your way up and down the records within the table behind you, rather than going in and out, in and out, in and out. What's interesting about that is, about 14, 15 months ago, somebody took a screenshot and put it on Twitter. And it was proposing something similar to that. But instead of this window being here, all the way across it, they had the window, so this particular record, they had that over here in a panel. And you could then navigate backwards and forwards. And it said they're about to roll this out to everybody, and we never saw the light of day. So this could be what's replaced that. This going up and down in the database. So it's the subtable within the record, and it just allows you to quickly go up and down. So when I'm doing my last minute check, gone are the days I have to go in and out like a yo-yo. Drove me mad. And you could tell when we were doing that, because it was click, 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 click. Now you're just going up and down in it. Talking of click, you may notice, if you are wondering what that is, that's my ClickUp extension. Loving the ClickUp thing. Right, so there was that as well. And our last one I can show you in here is the tiny thing. A tiny thing. But in here, if we go into... Now, do I have to make that? Can we get to it from there? No, I'm going to have to open that, aren't I? Oh, come on. Right, I need my settings in there. Right, and in here, where was it in here? I think it was there. Is that the one? Where have you disappeared to? No, it's in notifications and settings. Right, in here we now have settings. So this bit at the bottom, and we have an option specifically to choose what happens on startup. Now, by default, it goes to the last visited page, but we have an option now. You could have it as the top page in the sidebar, which in my case, if we look at what we've got over here, is going to be the favourites at the top, if you have any favourites. Otherwise, it'll be the workspace. But it will choose the top one. It will always go to that. I can see a benefit for that. In fact, the favourites, I had quite a few favourites listed, and I used that for navigation. And then I decided, no, purely for the mobile app, I can have my favourites in a widget. I can use my favourites to navigate. So I specifically now only use the favourites for kind of admin purposes. So it might make sense to have that top page, the one that it opens, because the top page is changed every week depending on what I'm working on that week. So they've added that. These are tiny things, I know, but they've added them. So we all have a look at them and then say, right, and then go back to working the way we were probably. Right, I'm going to get that out of the way, and I'm going to put it back to see who had that, because I couldn't see the chat while that was going on. So who had that?
Nobody, by the look.
Nobody. Oh, well, I've actually seen it working. It's very annoying. Kim likes that one, wishes there were more options. Me too. That's the problem with it. I mean, you all know I adore Notion. We wouldn't be doing After Hours without Notion. We took Notion on the same time we started doing After Hours. And you've seen what that looks like in the back end. There's no way I could juggle that many different demonstrations if I didn't have somewhere to put the information and somewhere to track it. It's as simple as that. But there are things that they've not. In the first year, they really motored with making changes and updates, and they seem to have lost their mojo a bit. The things that they're adding are just do-it things as far as I'm concerned, and it's like, where are the big updates? Where's the weekly view for a calendar? Where's the calendar that can pull in database items from multiple databases? Because ClickUp can. Just saying. So that's why I've got to look at ClickUp, because there are things that Notion just physically cannot do. No matter how much time I'm prepared to throw at it, it just can't do it. So we've already had two people saying, Jonathan and Kim, yes, you'd like to see ClickUp. ClickUp's quite different than Notion in terms of it's quite structured. But sometimes that's not a bad thing just to get the job done. So yeah, I'll put something together for ClickUp. But before we head off over there, where are we here? Let's move on to showing the passage of time in video. Now, I'm going to show this in Camtasia, but the principle is the same no matter what editor you're using. It was something that, if somebody had have asked me to do it, I would have been able to do it. But it had never come to mind how I'm actually going to show this passage of time. So the story behind it is the Affinity agony from last week. This was when I was running the apps and they were taking an absolute eternity to run. And I mean like 25 seconds, which is an eternity, trust me. It was happening with all of them, but I tracked it down to it being the App Store versions, which are obviously trying to verify something somewhere and causing a problem. I needed to put a video together to show that. But there's not much doing in a video, is there, if it's sitting there for over 25 seconds just bouncing in the dock. It's not proving the point as to how long something's taking. It's just the most boring video you've ever seen. So I thought I need to show the passage of time in a video. And this was what I came up with. So I've got to be careful here because I've got multiple versions of Camtasia, one of which is actually working. And doing things. Right, that one thinks it wants to do things, but we better not have two recordings of what we're doing. So I'm going to open... I'm going to open the one that is almost finished to show you. So it's having a think about opening it up. Machine's somewhat stressed. Go on, have a more of a think. Oh, seeing as though it's taking forever to have a think, I'll let you. I'll show you. It is actually contemplating opening. It is thinking, really. It is. God, this is taking a long time. This is actually taking about as long as the Affinity apps. I will admit, I did something stupid before we started tonight. Oh, this is quite concerning now. The stupid thing that I did was I started moving some data off the hard drive, make some space, which seemed like a jolly good idea at the time, and it's still doing it now. Right, this is the finished video, so let's get this to a point that we can see everything that's going on. And we're not seeing everything. Oh, there we go, that's a bit better. Right, so what we're looking at is the media bin, which is over here, and what I've got in it are two screen recordings. So the first one up here was the original recording of how long it was taking the apps to run. The second one is a completely different recording that's showing how long it takes to run the direct versions of the apps. So those two there I will fold up underneath. You're going to fold up for me? No, you're not. These are the screen recordings. Underneath that, I've got some videos. And then I've got some images. So that's what I'm working with. Timeline-wise, this is almost finished. The only bit that's not finished is this bit here, because I've got no narration on it at the moment. So all of this bit at the beginning here is how long it takes to run on the App Store versions, and this bit here, let's get rid of that, is how long it takes to run on the direct versions. So you can see this bit way shorter than that bit for a start, so by a considerable margin. Right, but there's no point diving into that and saying this is what I did, etc. So I'm going to get rid of that one. That's the finished thing. Right, let's get rid of it and let's open up the other one, which was called Starting Point. So what I've done with this one is actually rip out half of the stuff. So what I'm left with is two recordings. This one is the recording of it running. Let's get that so we can actually see it. There we go. This is it bouncing in the dock, endlessly bouncing in the dock. Oh, it bounced in the dock forever. And I wanted something on the screen to indicate how long that's actually taking. So what I did with it, Mike will put the links in, but the one I went for is actually a paid solution, which is, it came from Envato Elements. So I will show you what I went and looked for in Envato Elements, which is this. So it's a video. It is 4K because the rest of my video is 4K. And it's showing the passage of time, 10 seconds or a minute. So I thought that'll do nicely. Now you can see here it's got blue background and a transparent background. So I thought that'll be fine. So I downloaded that. And then what I did was actually put it inside here. So I've got the blue countdown one here. So I would want that towards the beginning of the video. So going back here, probably from the beginning of the video. So all I need to do is drag that on. Now, obviously, straight away, we've got a problem. It's huge and there's a blue background on it. And so what I need to do is, in effect, green screen it. But the term green screening doesn't necessarily mean that the background has to be green. The best colours for your background are blue or green. And the reason is that you don't have a blue or green colour in skin. Unless you are a Smurf, obviously. It would be bad news if you had a Smurf in your video, wouldn't it? But generally speaking, you can knock out green and blue and not impact skin tone. But how do you do that in here? Well, I use this one infrequently. So it's not in my favourites. These are the things I use all the time. But it's a visual effect. So all we need to do is to find the one that is in essence green screen removal, but it's not called green screen. I know that because I was looking under G for it. But if we scroll down, there are some of these, like this Colour Eyes, that are green and your eye is drawn to them, but it's not that either. But keep going down and you will find the one, and I do think it's the only one with a person on it, which is this one. And when you hover, it gives you a kind of before and an after, which is what this is doing. So this is the one we want. We want to remove a colour. So you can drag and drop that either on here or on the actual clip itself. And it gives you a message to say the visual effect was added. And how that works in Camtasia is, if we look at these clips here, there's no up arrow in the circle in the middle like there is on this one. That indicates that this has some kind of effect on it. And it's telling you it's the remove a colour effect. Now, irrespective of whether I actually had that open or not, you can see over here, which is the properties, that's the properties panel that flies in, that when you add something to it, it adds the control box over on this side. So that bit there is going to allow you to control the effect that you have applied to what's on the canvas in front of you. So the reason it's done nothing is it's looking for lime green. You've got two options when it comes to changing that to any other colour. It doesn't even have to be blue. You can move this up and down, and that's making no difference because the colour we're looking for is blue. But as I move it towards the blue, you can see that in real time, if I can stop it at the purple stage, it's knocked out half of it. So while you can be more precise, this slider's not bad. If you get it into the ballpark, it's perfect. But the other way to do it, take it back to green, is to use the eyedropper here and actually pick up a colour from the background. And that way you know it's perfect. Perfectly in the right place. Right, so we've got that. Obviously it's too big. We need to make it. In fact, that is not perfect. Good grief, what's it done? That should be perfect. That is not good at all. It was better when we dragged it up like that. Well, yeah, that's okay. That's working. Right, so I've got this big thing flying around and it needs to be much smaller. So I had it showing down in this corner. Now, the handles that it's got around here, it doesn't matter if that hangs off the end. So what I mean by that is, obviously the desktop there is the area I'm working with, but I can quite happily put that there. And the fact that this is hanging off the end doesn't matter. Apart from the fact it will drive you mad. So we do have a trick with this. Oh, we have a dirty hack. It isn't obvious that you can do this, but if you hold down the Option key, you will see that we've got, blue is a terrible colour to work with because you can't see the blue bit. Trust me, the outline is blue. And you've got these handles where they are now crop handles and you can crop bits off. So if you only want half the timer, you can actually crop it off. So if I crop that quite closely to that, that means I won't have something hanging off the end of the video. So that is the control key. From memory, ScreenFlow does exactly the same thing. Can't for the life of me remember the right key. But I don't think it's the control key. It could be, I don't think it's option. I think it could be control. Now we've got it scaled nicely and we've got it cropped nicely, we can then put it in place. Now, what this is actually going to do is as I start playing, if you keep your eye on that timer, it's showing it in real time, which is great. But I don't want that to start until I actually press enter, because we're already 3 seconds in and you know, it wouldn't be fair, would it? Because I haven't even given it a chance to start at this stage. So I need to move it so the start of it is when I actually press enter. So let's work out when I actually press enter. And it was kind of at that point there. So we are over 4 seconds in. So that tells me that down here, I need to move that video. So let's make it that we can see it a bit better. This video that's the stopwatch, I need to move the start of it to when I press enter, which is just there. Right, there's a bit of an issue with that. This is what that would look like if I played it. So as I press enter, the clock starts ticking, but the clock wasn't there to start with. The stopwatch didn't even see it. So it's like, where did that come from? So what would look better is if I could make it that the stopwatch was there, but that it wasn't actually counting down at that point. Oh, I see what I mean about this taking forever. About 22 seconds, I think it was. Right, so at that point, we need it to stop. And obviously, if I move this on, it's just going to carry on. So we need to get it to the point where we would stop it, which was further back here. About there, I think. Was it a little bit less? Hang on, when you're going to appear? There. So about that point. So it's just over the 20-second mark. Right, to do that, I need to actually stop it. So if this carries on playing, it's going to be moving. So if I just cut that video, that's brilliant. The bit we've got now is where it's moving. So it starts counting up, it carries on counting up, away it goes, and then when it's loaded, it stops. But the problem with that is, if I just press play now, it disappears, so we can't actually see how long it took. It had to disappear from the screen, because if it didn't, it would just carry on counting up, and we didn't want that. But in essence, that's what we need all over the place. So let's go back and concentrate on just this bit here, which is the stopwatch. Now, this is a feature. This is one of the features. There's about 3 or 4 features that I moved from ScreenFlow to Camtasia for, and this is one of them. Who's got an idea what I could do to show this, but at the very first frame when it's not started counting? Let me have a look at the chat. Anybody got any ideas? Put it in if you've got any ideas. If you were using anything else, as far as I know, Camtasia is the only one that I've seen that does this, the only video editor that does this. And when you're making screencasts like I do, it's invaluable. It is the #1 thing to do.
Renault's put something in.
Add a still of the end time behind it and a still of the stopwatch before it. That would work brilliantly, Renee. The only problem is if you try doing that in ScreenFlow, the colours don't match. So you would find frame 1 of this video and you would take frame 1 out as an image, and you can do that. So if we push this right to the end, that's what we're looking for. If you go to export, one of the options is to export a frame as, and it will export it as an image. So if we just stick it in there as start, right, we've now got that image, and I can show you that image, which is there. But the problem is, you'll see the difference. It won't match. For a start, it's got a white frame around it, where that came from, but it won't match. The colours just do not match. It's just the way that it is. We didn't have an option, however, in ScreenFlow. That was the only way to do it. But in here we can be cleverer, because if you can imagine doing that day in, day out with every video, it would drive you mad. That's why I moved. Because if I hover over the end of this, and you have to be careful because you've got the arrow, you've then got this that will extend it to the right. But if you hold down your Option key and you get that arrow pointing to the left and a frame, what that will do is it will take the frame that you are on, which is frame 1 of this video, and it will extend it backwards. You will even see there that we have stitching. So if I move that, we've got some stitching. What that is indicating is there was an edit at that point and you've pulled it backwards. So now if we move this, when we get to that stitching and I move back, all you've done is do the manual thing that Renee was saying. We'll put it still at the beginning, but it matches perfectly. And I don't have to play around doing the export and then importing it and fiddling around with it. Don't need to do that. Right. If we go to the other end, it works the same at the other end. So here's the clock. We need to get to the very last frame that the clock is on, which is there, and hold the Option key down, get the same square and an arrow, but pointing in the other direction. You can drag that to your heart's content. However long you want that, you can do that. Really, I only need it long enough so I can start talking about it. And let's watch the end of that. So it's bouncing, it will finish. And when it finishes, the stopwatch stops and I can say, and that took just over 20 seconds. Right, at this point, we then carry on with the next one. So now we're waiting for the Affinity publisher to bounce around. So let's get this up to about there. And at that point, I can cut the end off, and that is perfect. But I'm going to start at this point, and I'll be talking about how long it's taking Affinity Publisher to work. So I'm going to copy that first one, and I'm going to move it, and I'm just going to paste it in. Now, what I want at this point is to like reset the clock. So I want it to go from there. I want to reset it to 0, and that is resetting it to 0. And the only thing I'd have to be careful of then is that it starts at the right time, and it isn't. So I need it to start about there. So I actually need to take a bit off at this end and just delete it. So I'm taking this off and deleting it, moving that back. As long as I get that stitching to the right time with this, and that doesn't look bad. Yep, that's pretty much spot on. So I can repurpose the first one, and then hopefully it'll take about the same time. Let's just cut the end off and be done with it. Absolutely, it took the same time, which is great. Right, I am then at that point going to take it for a third time. Copy that one. And somewhere down here, and there was a big gap with this one, I wanted it with Affinity Photo. So I want the stitching where I am right now. So I can just move the stitching up to it, and it should work for that one as well. Let's play that one. We won't do the whole waiting thing. It gets old very fast. And there we go. So that was the way that I did it. There are other options. That was just, I like that graphic, and the fact it was a stopwatch when I was trying to time something made sense to me. I would then rinse and repeat with this down the other end here. These are the direct versions. So as that opens up, it's now taking no time at all. I think it's 4 seconds, 3.5 to 4 seconds. There were a couple of other options. So let me show you a couple of other options. That was one way to go, but there was another way to go. So I'm going to go back to the media that I've got. I have this, which was a 5-minute countdown that I got from YouTube. But if I drag it on, you see, for a start, it's 5 minutes, and I don't particularly want the beginning. And when it starts going, it's very big. But it is counting up, but I'm only going to need it to count up to 25, 30 seconds tops. So there's quite a lot of stuff on there I don't need. But what I can do with that is just cut the end off. So I'm not going to need more than 30 seconds. I'm not really going to need the beginning here where it does its count in, and then there's some audio as it starts as well. But I will need from the 00. So get to the 00, and we can cut that. Hang on, wrong key, and get rid of that. So now we've got the right amount of time in it. We've also got audio in it though, which I don't want. So I'm going to turn the audio down to nothing. And now I've got no audio. Obviously, I still have the problem that this has got a black background. But we know that we can use the visual effects and drag our remover colour onto there. And it knocks the green out. That's exactly what it's done. So if we look at this here, you can actually see the green framing on it. Not the best thing it's ever done. Unless you want something where you're talking about a countdown and you want to see it through like a mask, then that would work brilliantly, wouldn't it? Yeah, but no, that's not what we want. We want it smaller, but we need to see the green, not remove the green. But all of that is controlled in here. So if we go and get that, now you can see the green and it's knocked the black out. If I zoom into that, I have got some hideous fringing on it. So with it zoomed in, I have a play around with the filter, with the fringing. Didn't make that much of a difference. So I figured to myself, leave that one alone. If I change the tolerance here, because it's two colours, I can take that up to 100% and I lose the black outline on it. And that then works in exactly the same way, including the fact that I can do a crop so it fits neatly into whatever space I've got and have that running at the bottom, maybe like that. So let's crop that in and play. And then it starts. So that's another way to do it. I have a third and final way to do it, which involves some freebies. So let me go get my freebies so I can share that with you, which is in there. So the first one was the Envato Elements one. The second one was the Count Up Timer from YouTube. The third one is TechSmith Assets, which if you have Snagit or you have Camtasia, there are free ones. So notice in here, I've put a price as a starter, so not free. Sorry, not premium. And I've applied the filter on. I've come up with 3 alternatives here. I have a countdown wheel, which looks like that. Which is quite nice because I don't have to worry about animating that. The animation is all done for me. But in this circumstance, I don't want a countdown. It needs to count up like a stopwatch, which landed me on the count up wheel, which looks like that. Right, this one's no good to me either. Pretty, but it only counts to 10. So I don't particularly, I'm looking for 24, 25 seconds. That isn't particularly going to work, but it's pretty if you can get away with 10. But this one here is a whole range of counters that you can put in. So what I did with these was actually downloaded them. So when you're on here, you just need to download the file, hover to download the file, and hover to download the file. And that should be downloading neatly in the background. I will then show you what you get when you download it. So let's get another tab and look at the downloads folder. Right. Assets. Open that, bring them on, and that's what we get. So they are libzip files. They are Camtasia library files. I think I've installed 2 of these already. I will endeavour to install the other one to show you, but this is what you get, and you just double click it. So in here, in my library, I have a whole range of things in the library. So I've got these all counters, which was the third one. You double click and that is what it installs for you, all of them. I have then got the count up wheel, which is that one. So let's drag the count up on it, count up wheel. It's way too big, but I will put it over a dark bit and show you what happens when you play it. So like I said, it would have been lovely that, but it only counts up to 10. If it went further, great, but it doesn't. But that is what that one does. I've then got, I didn't put the countdown one in, so I'll show you installing the countdown one, which is this one here. You double click it, and it says, do you want to add it to a new library? I think I said yes, but I could have created a timer library. But I'll say yes to put it in a new library. And it's added another library called Countdown Wheel, and within there is a countdown wheel. So let's pop that on top of there, which is this one. It's going to start from 10 and count down. So there was that option as well. Now the other ones were more useful still, which was the all counters. Each of these is independent, so you can do this independently. So you may sometimes have seen a video where somebody has added like a frame counter to it, or a specific countdown stamp, and all of these are available in here. So if you want to count down in seconds, count down in frames, put a counter timestamp on it, or do count up with it. So in this circumstance, I'd probably go for something like this and put that maybe down there a bit smaller. I need to hold the shift because it's going strange. And then as you play that, where you go, you will actually see the seconds and the individual frames. So sometimes when you're sending out a proof, you want something to the frame. That would enable you to do that. The other one, what else have we got in here? Was that count up? That was a count up. The other one is a count down there. So that one will count down from 10. And they are all free. There's plenty more in the assets that aren't free. I do not pay for the assets for TechSmith. They're far too expensive. Many of these things you would be able to get elsewhere, either completely free or from stock sites like Envato. But there is 3 ways to represent time. So if you've got any questions, stick them in. Do we have any questions there, Mike?
No.
I am not on the right page for seeing that because it keeps moving. Right. Okay. Right. So I'll be finishing that video at some point. It's been sat there for far too long already. Right. Let's get rid of that and get back into here. Right. Oh, next thing. Oh, this'll be fun. This'll be fun. Presenting data. We had to, if you remember, we were on to part 3, but last week we couldn't do it. And we couldn't do it because Excel was broken. Now, given the time demonstrating this in PowerPoint, you might wonder what on earth Excel being broken has got to do with it. And it's because of the way PowerPoint works. Now, you and I have had a debate about this, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we think it's utterly, utterly ridiculous. We don't know why it's doing that, but it is. But the reason we were looking at this at all was that for the next 3 days, don't miss it if you want it, there is a completely free PowerPoint template with hundreds of slides in with all different kind of infographics in it. So Mike will paste the link in for that. It's free until Monday. But I would say Sunday because they're on Australian time. So Tuesday's Monday if you're with me. So let's say Sunday. It's worth having, whether you use it or not. We then demonstrated timelines with gauges. We did some gauges. We did some standard graphics in terms of they were just a gradient with a number in, as well as weird and wonderful charts that were not editable charts. They were shapes. You may remember the gauges that we made, and we had to fake where the middle of it was. We made our own timeline with a table. We had progress circles, progress charts, and we made a funnel chart. All of those were just shapes. And I have had a couple of mails with, why are you doing that? Because it can do charts. Yes. But if I had, for a start, the charts are quite standard charts. You can take them quite away. But if Excel's broken, like last week, you're not presenting it because Excel being broken crashed PowerPoint every time I came to present. So the reasons for using shapes are 1, you're making your slides totally independent from anything else. Mike and I have pondered what would happen if you took a PowerPoint file and you put it on a machine with proper charts in it. You put it on another machine that didn't have Excel on it. We need to test that. But I don't think we've got a machine in the house that doesn't have Excel on it, but it needs testing that. So if you put your presentation on a pen drive to go out and deliver it and it was put on a machine where they didn't have Excel, is that going to crash PowerPoint as well? So that was the reason why you might want to use shapes. But PowerPoint does have built-in charts. And by built-in, I mean the standard charts that you would tend to have in Excel, you have access to in PowerPoint. So let's go and have a look at that. Now, to effectively have a look at that, I'm going to have to come out of my presentation. I'll forget to go back into it, I swear I will. But we will start with a completely new blank presentation. And the only difference I'm going to make here is I'm going to change the layout to be blank because I don't particularly want that in the way. You can, if you are inserting a new slide, choose where you've got content. So title and content would give you the option to add a chart. To content would do the same. Comparison would do the same. Content with caption would do the same. There used to be a whole range more of these where it actually said chart. I never use this, but it says click to add. So I'm presuming in here I can add a chart by clicking on there. So you choose the icon you want. Do you want a table? Do you want an image? Do you want something online? If you choose a chart, you've got access to all of the charts that you have access to elsewhere. It's just going to be in a popover over that particular slide. Most of the time, though, you're going to want to start with a blank one. So in here, you have a whole insert menu on the ribbon. And it's interesting what's actually available in here to you. Like, there are add-ins. I think I added one. I think I added the QR code one before I went to Vivaldi and saw Sense. But you can get add-ins. So this insert is not just for charts. It's for a whole range of things, including screenshots. So you can actually choose. So it's showing me all the windows I've got open at the moment. And I could do a screen clipping of that. But we're interested in charts, and charts are it's the fifth button of the main section of inserting, which is charts. If we open that up, you will see exactly the same chart options that we had from that popover in the window. So this is the first step with the chart. It's not to go get the data or anything. It's to go choose the type of chart. I think the one I chose was this cumulative one here, the 100% stacked thing. So I'm going to click on that. And the reason it takes so long that first time is that it's opening this up. Excel in the background. So what I'm going to do, this is very awkward so we can see it, but that is the data that it is plotting for us. So it gives us standard data to work with. So we'll put that on the right hand side and we will put that on the left hand side and we'll shrink it so we can actually see the chart like that. Any changes that I made in here will ripple through to here. So for the moment, it's saying I've got categories 1 to 4 and I've got series 1 to 3. Obviously, they would need to mean something. Well, you don't do that in PowerPoint, you do that in Excel. So I've clicked on category 1, which is represented down there. So let's draw around that category 1 there. If I go in here and change that, so, we've got 4 of them, it would make sense to go for north, east, south and west. So let's put north in there. And you see that automatically changes. We'll do the east. Could be typing anything here because it's dark and I can't see. Why do I train in the dark, Mike? I don't know either. Right, and then I've got this column 1, which isn't actually saying anything on there at the moment because it's not used for that. But I do have data series 1, 2 and 3. Shall we have ice cream flavours again?
Yeah.
Salted caramel, my favourite. What else have we got? Vanilla. That doesn't say vanilla. See what I mean? Vanilla. And what else? What do you like? Chocolate?
Chocolate.
I hate chocolate ice cream. Really do object to that. That wasn't a case of my mother saying you won't like that. She said you'll like that, and I didn't. So we've got our chart updated by updating it in Excel. Weirdly, you can at that point close Excel if you want. If that's all you want to do with it, you can actually close Excel and then concentrate on working with your chart. Because once the data's right, you don't really need to concern yourself with that. So at that point, I can take that back to full screen again. Let's have a look at it. So the first thing you can do in here, you can manually edit elements. So you can go in and where it says chart title, we can put ice cream sales. And anything that you put with these charts can be animated. So you saw some animation as we were going into this. Anything in here can be animated. That's not actually a bad chart as charts go, is it? It's not bad.
It's not.
No, but we can improve it. So making sure the chart is selected. Now, selecting the chart changes the ribbon. This is the predictive ribbon. And do you remember me saying it never predicts what I want to do? With the chart, it's not bad because that chart design isn't even in here. You can't click it yourself to switch to it. It's only active when you actually have this active. And you've now got the chart design and you have format in there as well. And you'll see in there it says format and you've got chart area. So both of these are going to be acting on there. So we'll take chart design first. Right, the principles of formatting any chart will be the same as formatting any of these charts that you can create. It's just I've chosen this 100% stacked one. So the first thing I'm going to look at is changing the colour of it. Now you have this change colour button. These are actually applying colourful themes or monochromatic themes or any other kind of themes you have available. So how it works, there's 4 bars there. So it's taking the first 4 colours to format them like this one. Only I've only got 3 elements of data. So hence I'm only seeing the 3 colours there. Oh, that's brightened it up considerably. So these are available. These are the really colourful themes. But if you just wanted a range of blues or a range of any other colours, you have those at the bottom. So these are colour themes. I don't suggest you use grey unless you're printing it. It could be that you want to match some kind of corporate colour, or it could be you're presenting something about the rainforest and then it would work if it was green. Or you just want something that's bright and nice to look at. So we'll choose bright and nice to look at. That is the colour theme. The next thing you can change is in this big area here, which is the style of the chart. And go, get rid of it. So you can see what we've got here is a scale of 0 to 100, and we've got on the axes here across the plot area, we've got lines indicating the 10% marks. That is because we have this style selected, which is just called Style 1, really helpful. There's 2 ways to access the rest of these. You can scroll across, forward and backwards. You also have this flyout thing at the bottom that drives me insane. You've got to hit that in just the right place. But each of these is slightly different. But you can test drive them by just applying them. So difference is here. Your actual data, your percentage has disappeared. And the labels are now in white, which I think looks better. But as you keep going, variations on a theme. Oh, don't use that one for a presentation. Not with lines on it like that. Oh, that's shocking. But you might want a nice background on it. If I was doing that, I'd think about changing the background of the slide as well. But these are the alternatives that you've got. So that's much more muted. If you're going to print it, I wouldn't use that one because it'll all look a bit murky when it's printed. You want something like that if you're printing it. But these are the options that you've got, including the background. Sometimes less is more. Don't overcomplicate the slide. I particularly like the darker one. If only for the fact most people won't do that. And then what I would do is I would format the background of the slide. So I'm going to pick a colour for the background of the slide, and I'm going to pick it to be the same as that. Now, not quite the same, so I can select this and then I can put a shape outline on that if I want to. So I'm going to make it stand out. It looks like it matches, but not quite. But it looks all right. And plus the fact, a lot of people just bang a chart on there and it doesn't look great at all. So taking the time to just format it in a dark way and put a border on it really changes it. Now, you can also in here, once you've got this selected and you're in your chart design, you've got that you can change elements. So do you want the axes on there? At the moment, you're seeing both. But what if you didn't particularly want to see the primary vertical? then you can just turn that off and it will disappear. So this is controlling the elements of the slides. So we haven't got anything turned on there in the way of titles, but we could turn the titles on. So that's down here at the bottom, and we'd have to say what that was. So that would be flavours. And I know there's no U in flavours, but there is in the UK. So you can turn on various elements in here or turn them off. So we have primary major horizontal, but we don't have the vertical, but we could turn vertical on. So this bit here, these styles in here, are just pre-configured options from this one over here. They make it easier if you have a look and you have a feel that you want to stick with. So let's go through what else we can do. Now the legend is at the bottom, but if you wanted that on the left-hand edge, you could move that. If you wanted it on the right-hand edge, you could put it over on the right, or you could get rid of it completely. If it doesn't matter, get rid of it completely. So all of these options mingle together for this. Now, one of the interesting ones is this option here, which is switch row and column data. Now, when it says row and column data, it's talking about what was in Excel. The rows that we have in here and the columns that we have in here. It's switching that. So let's switch it. And now you've got 3 bars, but each one has 4 elements in it. So it's just flipping it round. You've got the flavours across the bottom, and you've got in the key at the side, you've got the actual, with it, if it's the north, the east, the south or the west. So it's just a different way of selecting, showing the data. Which way do you prefer, Mike? North, east, south and west, or flavours? I mean, pretty much it shows you the same thing in a different way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, you can add data to this. So if we go to Excel, we had fun with tables with this. This is a table of data. If we look in here, it's helpfully called table 1. But it is a table of data. That's the data. So if we wanted to add another flavour, should we add strawberry? Strawberry flavour. This indicator of the table jumped from cell D5 to E5. Straight away in here, I've got strawberry, but I haven't actually added any data to it yet. But if I go back and I add the data, strawberry's nice, but you know, I love strawberries, but not ice cream. Do you remember that time you had to send the ice cream back 3 times?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
I don't like. Yeah, I just said plain vanilla. How simple could it be? Just plain vanilla. What did I get? Mint, all kinds of stuff. In the end, it was fine. So our data appears over here. In fact, if we take this across to the left and go in here and change like 5 to 4, you should see, let's get rid of this so it's a bit bigger, but difficult to see. If we change 5 to 4 over here, that should actually change as we go, and it does. Let's change that 5 to 4 there. Oh, yes, it does, Peter, doesn't it? Tutti Frutti with cola on the top. Oh, can't abide cola either. Oh, no, too bad. Right, so we've changed the actual data source in there. Like I said, you can close that when you're done with it. But, you know, if you do want to change that. Now, there was one more thing. In fact, I'll get rid of that now because I have finished playing around with the data. So I can close that down. Do you know, I don't understand why PowerPoint crashes if Excel is upset when you can actually close Excel. But it's as though it needs to know it's there. It's a comfort thing. It needs to know it's there. Right, there was one more thing I did in here. So in my chart design in here, we have quick layouts, which will give you another way of changing it. So now you can see the data with it. So there is a whole range of things you can do in here. Where was that element I was looking at changing? Now, you can change the chart type if you want. This may not end well. It depends on what chart type it is and what the data type is. But I should at least be able to change it into one of those and actually separate them out and see them separately. I don't suggest you use that as a chart. There's too much information. I'm looking for an option. Where was the option? Didn't did I make a change to one of these individually? Could have been that. Let's have a look. It certainly wasn't in there. No, I think it was one of these. So, where's the option in here? I am not seeing it. Is it down the bottom? I will start with another chart. It'll make it easier. Only now I've hidden it, haven't I? Oh, I hid the slides. There we are. They're coming back. Right, I'm going to go on to this one. Convert that to blank, and we'll insert another one. So back to insert, back to chart. We won't go for anything complicated. Should we do a pie? Never use a 3D pie. It looks weird. But we will add that. That's going to crank that up again. And then it's going to put some sample data in it, which we'll get totally out of the way. And there it is again. So it's using exactly the same starting point as it did last time, which is in the colours at the top. You've got the colourful ones, and then you've got all of these others that you can change it to. But as I say, you can change between types, but don't try changing from something as complicated as that to a pie chart. You would need to take one range of data and show one thing in it, not multiple things like that. But you do have a whole range that you can insert. So from the charts, even ones I think you wouldn't use, would you?
Probably not.
No. Right. The interesting thing I found in here is if you go through and you format something to be the way you want it to be. Should we choose this one? This should make a big difference. Right. You go into your chart and you have all of these options. But at the bottom, you have the option to save as a template. And I thought, I wonder what that does. And as the name implies, it will save it as a template. Now, I'm just going to stop while it struts its stuff. I have PowerPoint saving to a PowerPoint folder. But this needs to be in a specific place for it to work. And the specific place, as you can see, is hideously in the library somewhere. But it does know where it is. And this is one that I created last night. So I'll create this one. This was kind of brown, wasn't it? We'll call it dark. Right, and save that. And that means if I go and then choose another slide with another chart on it, and I go into here, I can't apply that from there, but what I can do in here, you see I get my two options. So if we go and we insert another slide, and this time when we go to chart, instead of choosing one of these, we could choose one that was ours. So a black and blue one. And it gives us more data that we're not interested in, but that's what the chart looks like. And if we get yet another one, and we repeat the one that we have just made tonight, so in here, into insert, over to chart, and down to the templates and choose the dark one, we will get yet more data in Excel and drag that out of the way. And it's a really good starting point that you don't have to remember how you got there. So when you've made the chart and it's absolutely perfect, all you then need to do is save it as a template. When you change in the future, there's a really quick way to work. Your data's in here. I know your data's at the bottom there, but your data's in here. So if you wanted to put in a whole different range of data, let me go get different data. Oh, that all looks the same. Right, let's put our own data in. Right, like that. So I've got different data, but the data that I've got that's different is just the numbers part of it. It's just this bit here. So I am going to try to make it so that you can see everything. So let's do that, and that on the left. If I go in here and I paste different data in, that is automatically updated in there. So the template will always give you sample data, but if you then want to paste your data into it, that is why Excel is open over there, and you can just paste your data in and you don't have to remember all the settings that got you to that point. And as I say, all of that can be animated if you want it to be, which obviously we don't at the moment, do we? Right, let's get that out of the way and that out of the way. and get back into there. No, that's not good, is it? I don't want to change the screen. I actually want you to just do that. Right, okay. Coming up next. Are you ready for the freebies, Mike?
Yeah.
Why is nothing moving? I don't like it when nothing's moving. That's better. Right, I've got 2 really cool fonts. Comica Boom. Now, this is the kind of thing I would use for MacBites. Boom. Comica Boom. It doesn't have to have the patterns in it. It can just be used plain like that. It supports a whole range. So you've got capitals, lowercase. You've got all those symbols as well. And it's even multilingual. You will find that at Creative Fabrica. And that is the URL. Mike will paste that in for you, won't you?
Yeah.
I'll leave that on the screen for a second and take a drink.
There we go.
Oh, Kim wants to know how to animate the charts. Yeah, I can do that. Mike will make a note of that for the future. Right, the next one was Super Space, which reminded me of a cartoon from my childhood that I adored. The Jetsons. Do you remember the Jetsons? Oh, I love the Jetsons. I don't think Mike watched them as much as I did. It can be used for lots of different things, lots of different patterns that you can put in time inside there. Good Times reminded me of Windows 95. It's shipped with a video of who sang that? Good Times. I could sing it for you, but I won't. I won't subject you to it. But it's a great font, just the type that I would use for MacBites. That one's from the same place, but that one is Super-Space. Right, are you ready, Mike?
Yeah, I've posted those in the chat, so I'm ready.
Jolly good, because Mike's going to talk about working with dates, part 3.
Again.
Yeah, but you love dates. Have you got onto the times yet?
No.
Oh, timesheets. I remember somebody asking me about that on an Excel advanced course. And I thought, oh, well, how difficult can it be? And I sat down at the beginning of lunch and I thought, I can't do this. And I remember ringing you. Like, he wants to do something so simple. You went, it's not a timesheet, is it? It is, yes. A known issue, wasn't it? A known issue. Right, so if Mike's ready, let's hand over to Mike. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yay, there we go.
Right, okay. More dates today, more date functions. I'm going to start with eDate. Now, eDate stands for end date. That's what the E stands for. So it's used to add or subtract whole months from a date. So let's imagine that we've got a project starting on the 7th of February this year. I just pick that date at random. I could display it as the 7th of February, so we all know that it's the 7th of February and not the 2nd of July. I've tried to make sure that all the date formatting I've done for these demos does make sense to everybody, and then you're not trying to get your head around whether it's the 7th of the 2nd or the 2nd of the 7th. So the 7th of February 2022. That is our project starting date, and the project is expected to take 14 months to complete. Now, let's say that we get paid in monthly installments, and that is on the anniversary of the project start date. So I'm doing the project, I'm charging the client, and we've agreed to get paid in monthly installments, and those, it's not the first day of the month, it's not the last day of the month, it is on the anniversary of the project start date. So it will be the 7th of March, 7th of April, etc, etc. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to E2 and I'm going to type a formula. Now, we've done this formula a few times over the past few weeks, not just to do with dates, to do with lots of things. It's the sequence function. It's one of those new dynamic array functions. And what it's going to do is generate a list of numbers. And I need to tell it how many rows I want it to generate numbers for. And it's going to be the number of months. So if I typed in 10, then it would generate the numbers 1 to 10. You can, through the parameters of the sequence function, guess what I've forgotten to do?
Renee's just reminded you. When I say, are you ready, Mike? I mean, have you pressed record?
No, because I didn't even have Camtasia. Oh, I did have Camtasia running.
You just didn't press record.
I'll tell you what it was.
Oh, there'll be a saga.
Yeah, I had Camtasia running because I've been trying to edit a video for the past week. And it was just sitting in the background.
Well caught, Renee. I trusted him. I will know better for the future.
I didn't even look at the chat.
Good job I did. I looked at Renee. I thought, no, of course he's pressed record. I thought maybe not.
No.
So I was about to ask you.
Right, okay. Right. Where were we? Yeah, so the sequence function. The sequence function will generate a list of numbers. You can either do it down a column or across a row. You tell it how many numbers you want. So if I actually plug 10 into there, it's generated 10 numbers. You can, through those extra parameters, give it a starting number and also a step. So it doesn't have to go in sequence. But actually, I don't want 10. I want 14. But it might not be 14, it might change. So I'm going to pick that up from B2. So what I'm doing is I'm saying generate sequential numbers. It will start at 1 if you don't give it a starting point, and it will give us, in this case, 14 numbers. So there we go, there's my 14 numbers. And that is representing my 14 months. And what I want to know is I want to know what date we're actually going to get paid on each month. Now, when I say each month, I don't mean March, April, May, June. I mean the first month, the second month, etc., etc. So in F2, I will put equals date, open brackets. Then I specify the date. Which, no, it's not date, is it? It's eDate. It's slightly different function, eDate. I specify the starting date, which is B1, and I need to make that absolute because I'm going to copy the formula down, and then I specify E2. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me the date that is 1 month from what's in B1. And then if I copy it down, it's going to give me the date that's 2 months from B1 and 3 months from B1 and so on and so forth. So we now have a full schedule of when our payments are due. Let's change B1. So I'm going to change B1 to the 31st of March 2022. But of course, we can't say the 31st of April, the 31st of June, so it defaults to the 30th, and for February it gives us the 28th. So it knows that that is the last day of the month. So what it does is it goes through the next 14 months and gives us the last day of the month. So let's now do a slightly different example, a real life example. I'm going to change B1 to the 24th of March 2022, and I'm going to change the number of dates that I want, or the number of numbers I want, to 10. I can get rid of those because they've just been copied, and what it does is it gives me the dates for the next 10 months from the 24th of March, and those dates are the dates that I need to pay what we call the council tax in the UK, or the community tax, or whatever it's called these days, the Boris tax.
Give us all your money.
Yeah, so that's a great way of generating sort of an interval of dates when it's the same interval. So that's the eDate function. I'll just go and check any questions. I don't think there are any questions. Right, the next function that I will show you is EO month, which stands for end of month. So I've come up with a few scenarios where you could use EO month. What we've got here is some dates of some transactions. Doesn't matter what those transactions are. It could be transactions of us selling ice cream. It could be transactions of us buying computers. Doesn't really matter. Those are dates of transactions. And I need to put into column B the invoice date. The invoice date is when the invoice was actually generated, which isn't necessarily the transaction date. Because in this organisation, invoices are generated on the last day of the month that the transaction was in. So in other words, because the first transaction was in April, it's going to be the last day of April. This transaction was in May, it's going to be the last day of May. So what I will do for this one is use EO month, end of month. And it takes two parameters. The first parameter is the date that we want it to look at, and the next parameter is a number. Now, if I put a 0 in, what it will do is it will look at the date, it will say the date was April 2021, and it will give us the last day of April 2021. If I put a 1, it will give us the last day of May 2021. If I put a 2, it will give us the last day of June 2021. So it's counting the number of months based on the month of that cell, in this case A2. So a 0 means use the date from that's in A2. A 1 means use the month afterwards, and so on. If you had a negative number, that in this example would use March, -2 would use February, and so on. But in this example, it's going to be a 0. And that gives us the serial number. I'll copy that down, and then I'll change those serial numbers to display as dates. So you can see that it's given us the last day of the month based on the month in column A. I'm then going to change that. As I said, I'm going to change that to EO month A21 and copy that down. And that is giving us the last day of the month where it is 1 month on from the transaction date. So it's going into the next month, but it's the last day of the month. So that's a simple example of EO month. The next example of EO month, the transaction period is 2 dates, and it starts on the first day of the month when the transaction occurred. So in this case, it will be the 1st of April, because that's the first day of the month of the transaction. And it ends on the last day of the month that is the month after the transaction. So that would be the 31st of May 2021. So for this one, I will put EO month A2, -1. And that will give me the last day of the previous month. And obviously that's not right. As I said, it's the first day of the month that the transaction occurred in. So I need to edit the formula and add a 1 onto it. And that gives us the first day of the month. So that is giving us the last day of the previous month, and then add 1 onto it. So there isn't an SO month function, start of month. You have to do a dirty hack by adding 1 to the EO month for the previous month. So I can copy that down, and then we get the first day of the month that transaction was in. And the transaction period end, as I said, was the last day of the month. But it's not the month that the transaction's in, it's the month following the transaction. So this company has a transaction period for their accounting reporting purposes of 2 months. So if a transaction takes place the 6th of April, then as far as the accounting system's concerned, it was in the period of 1st of April to the 31st of May. Now, actually, I did that demo before, so I'll just cheat and copy that and paste it to there, because it's going to be 1 month on. So it's the last day of the following month. Just format those as dates. There we go. So that is EO month, end of month. Okay, let's just see if I have any questions. Kim's amazed I remember all these formulas. I'll let you into a secret, Kim. I do have a cheat sheet. Some of them, no, seriously, some of them I do use on a regular basis. So yeah, they're stuck in my head. But my cheat sheet is Notion. So that's where I have all my notes. Okay, so the next thing we'll look at is another function called network days. Okay, it's actually one function. It's not network days. It's not two words. So it's network days. That's the name of the function. And the network days function will calculate the difference between two dates, taking into account weekends and any other non-working days. So here we have a list of invoices. Again, I'm using the same example, a list of invoices and when the payment was received for those invoices. And I want to calculate how many days it took to pay. How many days did it take for our customers to pay each one of those invoices? That's what I do, you know. I've got it on my spreadsheet for my webinars. I've got a column called days after webinar. And once it gets to more than 30, I contact them and say, oi.
Do you remember when I sent that, if you don't pay me, I'll take you to court?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that worked as well.
Yes. But yeah, I want to know how many days, as I said, how many days it took to pay each of those invoices. Then I can start doing some reports to say, you know, like 80% of our customers paid late, where late will be over 30 days, that kind of thing. So the formula will be the later date minus the earlier date. So at a basic level, that's actually all you need to do. And I probably showed you that on the first week of this dates series, just to show you how you can subtract one date from another. But that is not taking into account weekends. And that's where network days comes in. So with network days, you put equals network days. The start date is the earliest date. The end date is the later date. Now, for this first example, I've not got any holidays, and that is an optional parameter. So I'll leave that empty and then copy that down. And you can see there is a difference. So the network days function excludes Saturdays and Sundays. Actually, there is a new function called network days international. And with that one, you have an extra parameter. So you say start date, end date, and then you have a parameter where you specify which days or day is the weekend. So if it's Saturday and Sunday, you put a 1 in there. If it's Sunday and Monday, you put a 2 in there. If it's Friday and Saturday, you put a 7 in there. If it's Sunday only, you put an 11 in there, and so on. So that was added a few years ago, the Network Internationals function, just to take account of different countries and different regions in the world that have different weekends. Now I'm going to change this because we've got a number of non-working days in the year. We've got our bank holidays, and they're being treated as non-business days. So for that one, I'll go and edit the formula rather than typing it from scratch, and I'll put the holidays in. And the holidays has to be a block of cells. It can be down a column or across a row, but it does have to be a consecutive range. And I do also need to absolute that so that when I copy it down, so you can see some of those numbers did change because the 3rd of May is actually in that range there. The 31st of May is in that range there. So that number changed as well. So that is the network days function. Let's just see if there's any questions. Nope. Okay, so the last demo is year frac. The year frac, what that does, it takes a start date and an end date, and it calculates the number of years between them. If the dates are less than a year apart, or if the dates are more than a year apart but not whole years, so say 2 years and 3 months, then it gives you the months part as a decimal. So if I wanted to know how old somebody was, there's actually several ways of doing age, and I used to do calculating age, and it doesn't have to be a person's age. It could be the age of a piece of equipment, for example. You're basically giving, like in this case, date of birth, but it could be a date of purchase. There was a fairly complex formula that I used to use, and I still do use it because it's one of those that's kind of imprinted on my brain, like Kim was saying before. But a quicker way, a simpler way, is to actually use the year frac function. So year frac, the start date is going to be the earlier date, which in this case is the person's date of birth. The end date is going to be today's date, which we can get with equals today bracket bracket. And then we have this fourth parameter, which is called a basis. So if you are dealing with a proper year, in other words 365 days in a year, then you would go for number 3. If you're dealing with 12 months where each month is 30 days, you'd go for number 2. And it's all to do with, a lot of it's to do with accounting periods, because obviously, you know, in the real world where we all live and the sun goes around the earth, etc., etc.
Do you mean the flat earth? The
flat earth, yeah. Then, you know, there are there's 365.25 days in a year to take account of leap years. But we have all these different parameters that we can choose depending on whether we're in Europe or in the US, depending whether you're doing an accounting period or a real life period. But if you choose the basis 1, that is the actual real number of days, which is 365. But anyway, that gives us 59.93770197. So in other words, that is saying that that person is 59.93 years old. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that. I'm going to extract just the 59 out of there.
We've got a question.
We got a question?
We do.
Okay. This could be used for genealogy. Can you do the reverse where you know the age of a person, for example, 75 and 6 days, you know the date of death? Can you use it to calculate the age of birth? You probably can. Yeah, you probably can. I will do that next week. Yeah, I'll do that next week for you, Kim. It'll take me a little bit of time just to think about it, but I'm sure you can do it. Oh, there's an action item for me for next week.
You better put that in. Just had Tracy ask for the link, and when I've tested the link, it seems it's been used, and that's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the code and put the code in, and then try and find a different link. Carry on.
Okay. Right. Where were we? Yeah, so I want to get the int part, so the integer element. So what I do there is I put equals int, open brackets, and then close brackets at the very end, and then press enter. What that will do is that will give me the integer element, or the whole number part of that number, which I can then copy down. So that is giving me the full age of somebody without the decimal part. So what we've done there is that calculated the age, and then we pulled out the integer element, which is the whole number bit. Okay, so if I want to know how many months old as well, so I don't want to see it as a decimal, but I want to see that somebody is 59 years and 11 months, then if I put a formula which says D2, which is the age, minus the integer of D2. So what that is going to do, if you think logically on that, that is going to pick out it's going to take what's in D2 and subtract from it the whole number part of D2. And if I round that, for that to work, I'll have to remove the int from here, because if I don't, it's already been integered. That's better. That's what I wanted. Okay, that's the months bit, but showing as a decimal. So if I then, could you limit to 0 decimal places? The problem with limiting to 0 decimal places for formatting is it rounds up. I'll show you that, Pete. So if I change it to no decimal places, watch what happens. See, it rounds up to 60. So this person isn't going to be very, very happy being told they're 60 years old when actually they're 59 years old and 11 months. So yeah, that's actually a question that a lot of people come up with. Is it possible just to use the formatting? So yes, it is, but there is a gotcha. So you're better off doing it with the int function, just to grab the whole number element. But the last thing I want to do is just to convert this to months. And to convert that to months, what we do there is we put equals int for the integer bit, equals int E2 multiplied by 12. And that gives us 11. So the E2 multiplied by 12 is taking that decimal, multiplying it by 12. If we didn't have the equals int there, then we would have a whole number with some decimals. So the int just grabs the integer. So rounding that back to what it was, we're saying that this person is 59 years and 11 months. Okay, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Are we ready then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is dates. And I will move on to, should we do times next week then?
Oh, my timesheet issue.
Yes.
Why not? Why not? Right, okay. Where's my presentation gone? I had to open my presentation and fly backwards into it for Tracy. Right, I need to be at the beginning of there. So let's do that. And do that every time. There we go. Right, so we had such fun last week. If you're wondering, what did we do last week? Oh, it was dials. Dials, styles, and no, styles, dials, and more. We started up, that's a bit ropey, isn't it? This is because I just literally put that in there. But we did dials. We started off with some of the things that were built in. We also took a plus icon and then turned it into the ones that I wanted, which was the tick and the cross. And then we built this one. It was shiny, wasn't it? Well, I had two others that we didn't have time to get onto because we were having such fun. So I thought I would cover those today. Right, let's go and have a look at them. Right, the first one was a variation on a dial, but tweaking it slightly. So let's start from scratch in here. Right, I started off with a circle. Can't remember how big it was, but that'll do nicely. Right, and where's it disappeared to? That's interesting. Not in a good way either. Right, why aren't you opening? That's better. Right, so what I did with the background, we'll do the background last. What we'll do is very similar to last week, but this time we're doing it on the inside, not the out. So I'm looking here to create a shape like this. So 4 to 5 points wide and about 20 tall. And I don't know if it's going to need to be a bit bigger than that. I'll make it a bit darker because I want to move it onto the inside of here. Moving it so it's centred with the shape, and I think on the page as well, but definitely the shape. Okay. Right. Next thing to do. The thing not to forget. If you get this bit, won't work. Right, you need to move the centre of rotation because at the moment the centre of rotation is the centre of the shape. That is why you need to use this, which is the Enable Transform Origin option. Click on that, grab this, and then move it down so it's the centre of the circle. What we want to do is have a kind of dial bit at the top, but where we've had circles before, this time we're going to put in some, you'll see when we've done it, it's going to look like my dad had on his radio. You know, his CB dial-y thing and his amateur radio thing.
CQ.
Oh, yes, indeed. Right, so once you've moved the centre of rotation, you can duplicate that. And then we need to put in at the bottom the 360 degrees divided. I think we'll divide it by 60 this time, and we get the next one. And then Power Duplicate takes over, and we just need to do that all the way around. Now, the thing is, I'm not going to use half of these, but that puts them perfectly into position. What I then want to do is this one that's at the top, I want to actually make that a bit longer. Because if this was a dial as is, it would be pretty boring. And if you think about how dials, you'll start looking at dials now and then think I'll redo that one in Affinity. But if you look at dials, they don't tend to be just as plain as that. They have delineations on them that mark larger groups. So if we were to extend that one to 29, I'll do like that. Then count round, and on the fifth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, that's what I did. Pull that one out. And I think it's 29.4. Same again, another 4, grab that one, pull that one out. And this makes this far easier to use. If you start looking at that now, oh, much better. 1, 2, 3, 4, so grab that one. And I want one more, so let's get this up. Yes, I know that's twanging to 28, but I actually want it 29 point something, don't I? 4, like that. And I'll take one more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's that one. And I will make that one longer. Right, these I'm not going to need. But I do have to do the other side of this. So let's grab that one and stretch that out. And another 4 and stretch that out. You can see at this point, it's much easier. They're starting to twang. And that's because they've got one opposite that matches. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do think that is that one. Right, these I don't need. I'm not really going to need the background too much either, but I will here get rid of these. So I've got just the ones I want to delete, and it's starting to look reasonable. So, next thing, just need another circle in the middle. I only need 3 circles and the dial on this, and I'm done. So, let's grab that and put that in there. That actually doesn't look bad. Don't need to worry about that too much at all. Right, let's put that there. We already have the styles that we used last week, and we can repurpose them. So, grab the background. And then into our styles. Now, remember, we had text styles and we had styles, and it was styles that we were dealing with. And in here, we had our after hours styles, and we had a silver one. And this one, same thing. What is interesting with this is if you do that, it doesn't look bad. But if you rotate one of them fractionally, it looks better. So you can do the back one or you can do this one, really doesn't matter. And the last thing that I did on this one, oh no, I'm lying to you. No, the next thing I did on this one was I got another circle and put that on the top of that one. And what I was interested in with that one was not particularly moving this, just getting it into a reasonable place and putting a colour on it. So we want something a little bit more exciting than that one, like the red, but then we needed to put some effects on that. So this is our shape in here. If we bring the effects up, which is off the screen, I like seeing the effects in here. It makes far more sense to me. I'm interested in an inner shadow on that one, which just gives it some depth. And then I can offset it to get some shadow up there, and you can change the intensity here. So I would say with these, play around with them. Don't go crazy with them. Just have it so it looks realistic. That makes it look more equal. I like it less equal. So I've got down here, there isn't as much of the effect on it. And then when you actually zoom out, it looks like it's embedded in there. Right, the last thing that will make that look even more realistic is all of these shapes that we've got here. They are individual shapes at the moment. So the first thing to do with them is group them. I always make a copy of them and then just toggle that off. So we don't want to do anything with that. But these here, I'm then back to the fact they need some kind of effect to look realistic rather than just painted on the top of this dial. So back into the effects there. An inner shadow would probably work quite well with it. So again, give it an inner shadow and it starts to provide some depth with it. You can offset that if you want. When you're working with something as dark as this, you need to be quite careful with it, because it's adding in more darkness to it, and it can just end up that it doesn't provide you with the depth. But that actually is providing it, and that looks okay. And there you go. Really simple. Absolutely simple. Using exactly the same effects that we had last time. The variation this time is that the dial elements, instead of them being circles or squares, you've put different sizings in at predictable points, which is actually what the dial does actually look like. It's when you're sat there and you're putting these in, you think, oh yeah, that's right, and then you look at the dial and you think, oh, actually, every fifth one is longer and it's showing me something different. So very, very simple to do something like that. Right, the second one that I had is a little bit longer, and this one was for something entirely different. I saw an image that was similar, but I wanted to make it more customizable. So we are aiming for one of these digital home things that we have. We don't, do we? Because we very seldom have the heating on, like never. But one of these digital thermostat type things that you have. And again, I'm going to make this with just the very, very basics with a few shapes. So we're starting off with a circle. To make this look decent, I am going to put a background on it. So I didn't on the last one, but I will on this one. So I tend to put a kind of deep brown background on it. Something like that, but deeper. So down here. Oh, these are not looking good. Getting there with that one, getting there. Maybe try over here a bit. That will do nicely. I don't particularly want black, I just want something that's quite dark. That's now in the wrong place. I need to put that on the top, and I'll lock that because we don't want that moving when we're working with this. But this is the biggest circle that's going at the back, and it just needs to be the right shade. So I happen to have the colour palette off screen. That's the right thing. Right, that looks a bit light, actually. That does look light. Tell you what, let me copy it. I've got the HTML, the hex code for it. Let's copy it. No, it's right. It's right. It's looking different because the background's different. Maybe I should change the background before something goes wrong. Otherwise, it's not going to look right. That looks better. Right. Let's get back to this. So that's the big circle. The next thing to do is just put another circle on top of it. So half of this is just working out how you're going to make this work. So that one is, let's make that 450 so it's more predictable. Right, 450 and stick it in the centre. Right, I just need another circle. So I'm going to grab that one and make it smaller. Now, in terms of the size it's going to be, how much is on the outside, I'm going to eyeball it. So about that. And I'm going to put this as orange. Now, the reason is, this is going to indicate the temperature on our, what do they call that now? I mean, in my day, it was a thermostat. It's probably got a really fancy name now. A home kit thing. Thermo home or something. Whatever. All right, there you go. That is that one in. The next circle I just need is a little bit smaller than that again. Although, to be honest, we don't even need that at this point, but that'll do. And that one, I want the colour I had the background, so it starts to look like that. More needs to be done. This was left like this when I was looking around at thermostats, but I wanted to be able to change the temperature on it. So hold your hat while we carry on. The next one, we've got that one. The next one we need is a controller. So we need the controller in the middle. And the controller in the middle would be considerably smaller. So let's grab that. That's about right. And that's a whole different colour again, which is much, much lighter than the other ones have been. So there's the background of that. Then I need another one that is a slightly different colour again and a smaller size. So all we're doing so far, if you think like I can't draw anything, these are just circles and you're just putting them straight on top of one another. The key to giving it depth is to apply the styles later and to apply different colours to it. That is almost all we need. Looking at it, I personally think the orange one is showing too much. So I'm going to increase the size of that one and recenter it. That's much better. Now, the basics of what I need to do are actually quite simple now. I want to put something on here like that covers up part of that. So it looks like there is actually a gap and you can see it jumping like crazy. It's trying to line up. Doesn't actually matter to that degree because I'm going to put a colour in it where we're not going to see it anyway. It's just going to sit over the top of it and cut that in half. So this is the starting point and it goes round to this as the finish point. I'm going to put some text on it. We'll just put MacBites HQ. And what font have we got there? There's a nice one. It's very nice and simple called Keep Calm. I didn't know I had a keep on trucking. That must have been for a 60s poster looking at it. Right, let's have a look at that and make that a bit bigger. Right, that would look better if it moved down a bit. And possibly if it was a different colour. And I know the colour that needs to be. So I'm going to pick up the colour from over there. And that's the bit at the bottom dealt with. That's just niceties. That's nothing in terms of how this is actually going to work. The next thing I need is just some text here, which is going to be an angle bracket. So let's put an angle bracket in. Now, I had trouble with the angle brackets. You wouldn't think it was that tricky, but I needed just the right angle bracket to make it look like it was a controller. And that doesn't look like it's a controller. So I ended up using a font I was not expecting to use, which was Courier. And Courier had nice rounded ends on it. And once I'd stretched it out, that did look like a controller. So I was quite happy with that one, but I was surprised it was that font. It's going to need to be considerably bigger than that. Like that. And get that halfway. And eyeball it. Right. Might as well copy that and put it over there. And then you can do one of two things. You can either flip it, so you could flip it like that, or you could actually put the right character in. I did think, I'll just flip it, it'll be easier. And then I thought, no, because I'm going to wonder what on earth is going on later if I come to edit it. So let's put the right character in. And that is lined up nicely. Those two need to be not black. So not in your face there. They can be quite light though. So let's colour them like that. We then need, and this is really the last thing in terms of it becoming a thermostat. And that just needs a temperature in the middle. So let's put in there 19 degrees. Now that curry is not going to work for that. That's for sure. I found Avenir just worked nicely with it. So if we go up there, Avenir, in fact that looks squashed to glory. Let's stretch it out a bit. That's a bit better. Right. Now, but it needs to be 19 degrees. Who knows how to get the degree symbol on the keyboard like that? There is a shortcut for that. Kim, it's tantamount to a dirty hack. It's on the keyboard, that. I'll wait and see if anybody knows. Don't let me forget, Mike. Okay, so we've got all of that in there, but it's still not looking quite right. It's got no depth to it. So we need to start putting in some layer effects to start giving it depth. So for a start, the background one needs to have depth to lift it off the background. So if we put an outer shadow on that, and there we go, it starts to lift it off the background. So let's put that on. Option 8. Oh, Paul, so close. So close. It's Option Shift and 8. I find that one easy to remember because it's the star key. So Option Shift and 8 if you're on a Mac. Right, so we got some depth off the background there. On the inside, do we need to be thinking about putting something on the orange? Before we think about the orange, I'm going to skip the orange for the moment because we need to be able to move this down here and have less of a temperature. So maybe have the orange cutting off at this point, and it's how to do that effectively. It's a good job I spotted the F in that, Paul. Oh, move on. Right, so this one here needs some depth. So again, we'll put an outer shadow on it just to lift it off that background slightly. And offset it. Are you working here? Come on. Oh, just short at the air. There we go. That starts to lift it up. This bit here needs something. I think I did something different on that one. I think I put an inner shadow on it. So it looked flat. Like that. But it did have something lifting up the back there. Right. So it's up the intensity bit so we can really see it. Right. You could take that as far as you want with other things. But the interesting thing with this, as far as I was concerned, was how do I make this orange change so I can cut it off at different points? Interesting. But using a trick that we did last week, which is using the pie. And if we draw the pie, and we're trying to get the pie to match the orange. So let's have a look what size the orange is. Let's get rid of this. There's the pie, there's the orange. So what size is the orange? That's the size of the orange. That's the size of the pie. So let's put that into the pie. And as long as we get the pie within the stack correctly, so if we pop that on there, you can see it's actually covering that up, which is what we want. There's a little bit of overlap there. So if this pie was fractionally bigger, so if we made that 390 by 390, that is covering that up nicely, or it would be if it was in the centre. Come on, let's get you to the centre. That looks like... Oh, are you here? Good grief, what are you doing? That looks like it's the centre, and it looks like it's a mile off. So let me have a look what's going on up here. Right. Nope, that looks fine-ish. Is that off? That'll do. That'll do. But now, obviously, the problem with this is it's covering up more. I actually did want that to be the size of the pie, just to be the size of the orange, just to make it match. So I'm going to try and do that, and I'm going to try and make it look right by putting it in the right place in the stacking order. All will become clear why I need to do that. It isn't going to work where it is. So this is not in the right place in the stacking order yet. Or maybe it's just not in the right colour, because how I want this to work If we go in here and we edit the pie, so this is just like we were doing last week with a conical gradient in it. I come in here with my pie. Oh, are you going to let me do this or not? Come on. I know you're in the stacking order and I know you're getting all upset. All I've done is turn something off so I can show you this. So this is what I actually want. This time, instead of leaving it turned on like that, I actually want to turn it off at this end. So I'm going to do this in the completely opposite way of last week, but it will make sense. All right. I need this one to be darker. So it looks like it's turned off. So if I just make that darker, you can see now it looks like it's turned off. We turn this one back on, it covers the two of them up. Great stuff. Because when we go back in here, you can take the temperature right down, you can take the temperature right up. Love that. The same principle. So once you've done it, you've done all of those bits there and you've finished it, then it becomes really easy to go back and make changes. So this orange bit here, if I duplicate that and I change the colour of the top one to be blue, I still only need the one pie to change the blue. The reason that the orange isn't seen is because the pair of them are covered. The cyan is covering the orange, so I don't have to toggle it off, and the pie is covering the pair of them. So just change it like that, and it gives you a totally different look for a different piece of artwork. So all the same principles as we had with the others, but in a totally different way to create a totally different piece of artwork. Right, let me have a look there. Oh, I do have the outline on. I can turn that off, obviously. But that was what I did with it. I played around in various other ways in terms of taking these bits here and putting styles on those. Obviously not ridiculous styles. If you go into the styles here, no, I didn't make them gold or anything, but you could if you wanted. It's not a good look. It's not. But you can make styles that encompass the gradient and other elements, or you could leave it at just a gradient or whatever. Now, the thing to remember is with Adobe Designer, in Affinity Designer, if you have your styles and they're not backed up, then like me, when I had to reinstall, they totally vanish. And it's the same with gradients and every other element in it. So make sure that you do one of two things. You either back up everything independently, you back up everything that's in your library folder, or you create a document that is an index to the settings and styles that you had. And then you can recreate them from there. Now, I did get a question last week about gradients. So let's undo that and let's get a new file. Right. There we go. The gradients that we looked at, let's just get some of these like this. So if you were making your radio and you were having a graphic equalizer on it or something, this is why I like the background thing. It works better when it's dark. So let's grab the background of this and put that on there. Moving it to the background and looking it. Right, so I've got this here. I'm going to show you a gradient on this. So the gradients we looked at last week were conical gradients. Let's just grab... Oh, well, no. What am I doing? I'm doing it the PowerPoint way. Don't do that. Right. Let's do it properly and get it aligned. That'll do nicely. And then we've got all of the others. Right. If I go into here, and I think this was, somebody wrote to me, and this was the problem they were having. They were putting a gradient on it, and it wasn't applying across the shapes. It was applying to each individual shape. So with your shape selected, if you've got two options. You can use the gradient as in the fill, or you can use the gradient tool. So in the gradient tool, if I click on here and drag across or up, you can see it's applying a gradient. But it's only applying it to that individual shape. So the gradient in question from in here had all kinds of weird and wonderful things going on. So if we zoom into it and make sure that that is actually touching that end and that that is touching that end. Right, now if we apply colours to this, so if we start off with the yellow, and where do we want that going? Maybe to the blue. Oh, all of these colours we had last week. No, actually we had green, didn't we? And we were going through... No, we went from green on that side. We'll go from green on that side. We'll go all the way through to red over here. And we will, in the middle, put the yellow in there. Now, there isn't much in the way of yellow. It looks like there's far more green and there's far more red. You can move these, and you can move all of them. So if you move that one away from that edge, you'll get way more red. Do try and keep it straight though, so I'm holding the shift key down. But the problem basically was that as they were doing it, it was only applying to the individual thing, and they wanted it applying globally. So I'm going to take that one out of the way. That's what we want to try and work with. But these are independent shapes at the moment. If we look over here, this is why I always group them and then duplicate them in case I want to go back. So I'll take that out of there and lock it. And in this one here, make sure I've got all of these individual components selected. It doesn't work if you're working with the group. And up here, you have your Boolean operations where you can add, and that is now one shape. At that point, if I have my gradient on a shape like that, or I've got the gradient in anything else I want as a style, however you do it, I'm going to copy that and then I'm going to select the shape that's going to receive this and I'm going to paste the style. Not paste the style, no. Paste the effect, was it? Oh, whatever it was doing, come on. Hang on, I'm on the group, aren't I? Let's get that out of there for a start. Right. This definitely worked last week. I know it did. Paste. I'm sure it was the style. That's better. Right. So don't do it on the group. And then what did I do? Do it on the group. Right. In here, this is an individual shape. So if you want to change where the red is or where the green is, you can still use the gradient tool to do that. So for whatever the reason at that point, that's just added a new point to it, you want that to be pink, you can do that. So you can just add extra points to this and make them whatever you want. Oh, it's hideous, isn't it? It's hideous. But that is how you do it. You could then put that with what we did last week, which was how do you make it darker? So I'm going to undo that, get rid of those hideous ones. How you make it darker, and we did that by putting a cover on it and then moving that cover. So we had a shape like that we just kind of covered it up with. We put a dark fill on it. So let's lose that one and choose that one. We can do that. We can change blend modes, or we could change the opacity of the fill in here. So if we don't want it that dark, if we want it like that, and we can mask it to that shape by dragging it inside it, and then when we open that up and grab that shape, it's acting like a mask. So we would probably want it going from that end as we drag it up, and you can see where that is turned on and where it's got extra to be turned on, like that. Or you can have it totally black if you like, where it just blacks it out. But it's probably good practice that people know where that actually is, that it is darker in that kind of way. Okay. Right, there's probably more I could do with that, but that is enough for tonight. So let's head back in here, and what do we have coming up? Oh, we're changing day. Paul will like that. I remember Paul particularly mentioning Saturday was a better day. So it's Saturday next week. Are you going to share why, Mike? Because Friday, I mean, they could think we're going out. In fact, we should be having a party next Saturday. Do you know why?
No.
Oh, you should do. I mentioned it earlier. Next Friday night, 4th of February, marks 700 days in lockdown for us. So, no, we're not going out for a party. But Mike is busy, aren't you?
Yes.
Go on.
There's a match on.
It's only the FA Cup 4th round. Oh, big, big, big match. So we will be with you, but we will be with you on Saturday. Right, everything that we do is available on demand. You will find me at youtube.com/Elaine Giles. There is also the After Hours playlist. Every show we've ever done Oh, you'll have some fun with that. That is macbites.co.uk/after-hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. If you love us, could you give us a like? Because it really matters to YouTube. We have my mailing list at elainegiles.com/VIP. Something rather special coming up there, isn't there, in the next few weeks when I get round to it. It'll be before March. Let's just say that, so you don't want to miss out. And there's the MacBites mailing list, which is macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. We are also on Slack, carrying on the conversation 24/7. And you will find that at macbites.co.uk/Slack. That's completely free. It's like Twitter, but private and better, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always say that because, you know, the conversations in Slack, you spot something, you think I must reply to that. Before you turn round, it's gone. It's up in a timeline somewhere and I can never find it. So then I have to use the search. But we have great fun in there. And you can contact us at all of those places. And please feel free to do just that, because we love hearing from you. Okay, let me get to the chat so I can see if there's any questions.
There were no questions on your demo.
Oh, right. Okay, then. Excellent. 91. Dropzone and the black hole. Is that the same one where we can drop into the Dropbox and pCloud? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's the one where I talked about the history of it, how it came about, the original app, which was called Drop Copy, I think, wasn't it? Drop Copy and Drop Copy Pro. So I talk about the original app and how it happened and how we got to where we are. Because the original app needed both machines turned on. It could work, I think, on multiple machines, but it needed them both turning on anyway. And that wouldn't work when Mike was at work. It also wouldn't work when you were out. So over the years, it got changed from that app called Drop Copy to the one Dropzone. But we had it hosted on a drive, hosted on an Airport Extreme. And then we wanted to make it independent from the Airport Extreme, because then you had to have that turned on. And that broke, didn't it, I think? So we ended up trying multiple clouds. But the ones that would work best would be Google Drive and possibly pCloud, depending on how you're accessing pCloud. We tried it on Dropbox. It didn't end well. The reason it was an issue on Dropbox was Dropbox will access files remotely without downloading them. So you can have files on demand. But once it's downloaded them, they sit there. And if a new file appears, it downloads it. And we didn't want that. We wanted to say to a folder, this folder is online only. And whenever anything was added to it, it stayed online only. And there was only Google Drive that would do that. Although heaven knows what Google Drive's doing at the moment. So I think it could end up on pCloud yet. But then I'd have to install pCloud, and I haven't done that yet either. Is the black hole the same as Dropzone? I'm
just replying to that. Black hole is our name for it.
Black hole, well, it was because the app, the icon was a black hole. And it put a black hole on your desktop. So instead of remembering what the app was called, we were lazy. And we just said, oh, the black hole. And then the app died. Apple updated the operating system and Drop Copy died. So we were like bereft. It was like, well, I can't work because I can't get this file to you. So we switched entirely. By the time we'd fixed an alternative, Drop Copy was back alive. But the thing was, by outlining what we actually needed, we built something better. So the black hole is now basically a system. We should patent this.
Yeah.
It's a system by which you can transfer files from machine to machine or person to person based on a system that we've built that has now reached the point it's independent. If Dropzone broke, we'd just switch to something else. If the cloud stopped working, we'd just switch to something else. Because you get to a stage with a workflow that you've abstracted it. But yes, it used to be an app, and the app was called this, and that was how it worked. But because you're forced to reevaluate the workflow, you abstract it to a point. I could probably make it work with any cloud now, virtually with any app that would let you move a file somewhere. Maybe you could even automate it with Hazel if you wanted, but you have to abstract it to that point. So it's a concept. Oh, Patricia enjoyed that. Excellent. Thank you, Tony, for your kind words. Thank you, Carol. Very welcome. And I think I'm up to date. I don't think I've got any questions I have not answered. Have I?
No.
Oh, Mike's putting capitals Saturday next week, so make a note. It's Saturday next week. I love the way you put it in capitals. I will put it in the email in capitals as well. And Mike might even pop in at 9 o'clock next week, depending on how United are doing, just to see if anybody turns up early and says, where are you? But hopefully you will all remember it's Saturday, which technically gives us another day, doesn't it? But we're probably still going to be on the death. No, we're going to be organised, aren't we?
Yes.
He's not saying a word now. Excellent. Patricia's just got Dropbox. Do you mean Dropzone? Or do you mean Dropbox? The black hole is a good idea. It is. You could extend it further than we have. We tend to use it just to transfer something to each other. Because if you don't, the way I use it, because it doesn't download the content, it just sits in this black hole folder. And I've got stuff going back to whenever. So if Mike transfers something to me, I make a copy of it from there. I drag it from there. And that means I can always go back. If I think, I've lost that file or I changed that file, I can always go back to it. I do keep threatening to sort it out, but there really is no need. It's on a cloud, so let me have a look. Black hole. Oh, it's also hooked up with Alfred. I did the whole Alfred thing as well. Let's have a look here. Let me show you. Where's that gone? I moved the chat over the top of it. That wasn't clever. Right. Let me close that down and show you how I've got it working. So inside Alfred, inside the workflows, it was one that managed to survive the cull. I deleted 29 of these, but that one wasn't one of them. So shall we try black hole and see what it comes up with? There we go. It's really simple. Right, it's just going to do two things. This one's going to run a script, and this one is going to open a URL. This one is opening the black hole in a browser. This one does everything else, and the reason that it's a script rather than anything else is that when you go into here, you have an optional argument. So instead of just saying black hole and it opens a folder, that's simple. With this one, it takes arguments. So when you look at it, it says if the argument is Q, then do this. If the argument is M, then open Mike's folder. Otherwise, open Elaine's folder. So that is how it works in Alfred, which means I don't have to do I can do the Dropzone thing if I need to. Just go up there and click on Drops for Mike, and it will open that. It's done it over there, but it's opened the Drops for Mike folder. But I don't even need to do that because I can go in there and type black hole, and that will open the black hole. There we go. So at my level, but if I don't want that one, if I want another one, black hole Mike, it opens it and it will be Mike's folder. It's opening it off the screen, but trust me, it's opening Mike's folder. Also, if I want to open the root of it, black hole R will open the root of it, and there's the 3 folders. And all of that is coming from one Alfred workflow. And the other one will open it in a browser. So if I want to see it in a browser, then I will do. Now, how much is in here? How many files have we got? 347. And if I do that, 6 gig. Oh, I've no idea there was that many, but 6 gig. And that's why I don't want it local. So that is why in here, if you look at it, Google Drive, My Drive, Black Hole, all of these are online only. Now, Dropbox starts off online and then does its own stuff and starts downloading it. And I don't want 6 gig downloaded everywhere. I don't know what pCloud would do with it. I don't have the pCloud app installed. I tend to use that online. But Dropbox is a no-no. Because I remember saying to Mike, I remember Dropbox, there was a no-no. And then it was like, yes, but why? And I couldn't remember why. It's now documented in Rome, so I'm not going to lose it. It's all sorted in Rome. But yeah, that's how it works. So there's Hazel rules as well. Let's have a look at Hazel. I haven't got the Hazel rule installed on here. I never bothered, did I? But it was pointing at the folder, the black hole folder, and what it was saying was, if there's a new file, then send me a notification. And it would send me a notification, but I haven't added that back. I didn't miss it when it wasn't there, so I left it alone. On the basis it's not broken, so don't try and fix it. Not that that usually stops me. But on this occasion it did, so there you go. Why don't I use AirDrop? Is that less secure? AirDrop just doesn't work. No, AirDrop's hideous. No, AirDrop, you have the machine has to be there, the person has to be there, or it just doesn't show up in an AirDrop. What we've built backed onto a cloud is Mike's computer doesn't need to be turned on. We don't need to be in the house. You could, if you can get to the black hole folder on Google Drive, then you can put stuff in there, irrespective of device, location, the lot. So that's why we do it that way. You are very welcome, Mary Pat. And Paul says pCloud only syncing certain folders. I just didn't install the app. Is there an option in there, Mike, not to have those notifications? Because I do have it on another machine and I keep getting try this for free. Pushed up there, and I don't like that when I'm in the middle of trying to record a tutorial. Makes me very grumpy. So is there an option to opt out on a per machine basis of stupid notifications that come up in the middle of the screen? Huge. So that's what in pCloud. That's why I don't bother. But if I did install it, I would do the same as that, Paul. I would only sync certain things and not much. Then I don't sync much. Not intentionally, with Dropbox, and even less with Google Drive. Really, the only things that I want local are my application support folders. But Dropbox, I have to purge it every now and then. It just gets one on itself and downloads stuff. That's why I said my next machine's going to have 2 terabytes. Because I'm working more and more in the cloud, and it wants to sync to make things faster. But pCloud is a great alternative. I don't know why. People talk about OneDrive and they talk about Dropbox and Google Drive. They don't seem to talk that much about pCloud, and yet it's a fantastic service. One, you can get a lifetime deal. They should be about due a sale in April, shouldn't they? Again, they did last time. So you can, it's not an ongoing cost. But 2, the features are fantastic. And they're always adding more and more features. But whenever I mention a cloud, people say iCloud, Dropbox, Google Drive. They don't think pCloud, and I don't know why. Oh, Carol was trying to get her head around DevonThink. Have you used it before, Carol? Or are you setting this up from scratch? Patricia says, can I ask what I need to do not to lose files? Switch because of issues with OneDrive. Lose files in what way? When you're moving them, are you backing them up? What are you doing with them? And where are they disappearing? Let's try and work that out. Carol, that is not difficult. Mike's just put in the link, the DevonThink series. It does have focus settings, does it? Right, I'll have a look in there, Renee. It's very annoying because I don't mind the notifications about the files, but I don't want promotional notifications. So it's not the app itself, it's when it starts promoting things. So when they've got a sale on, it says try the sale. That's really annoying on any level, but it's triply annoying when you've just partaken of the sale and now you've got 4 terabytes and it's reminding you on a constant basis. So I just want to get rid of that bit, really. Oh, Carol is starting from scratch. Well, I do start from scratch in that series, Carol. Totally from scratch. Don't expect anyone to know anything with it. Prior to that, I think it was the same week that I started. We covered paperless. So why you might want to go paperless first. That was about a 4-hour show, wasn't it?
It was.
But that's there as well. Okay, catching up. I have heard of, is it Daegu? Daegu? I have heard of it, Peter, but I've not taken it up. I saw some of the deals and I thought that might be an idea to get extra storage in the cloud. Didn't particularly bother me that it would be fragmented. I mean, lifetime 10 terabytes for 99 is a great deal. I think I would only use it for backup though. I don't really want to have like, six to 8 different clouds installed that I'm actively working with. But I've never tried them personally. So other than looking at it and thinking it was a great deal, no, I haven't taken that any further. Patricia says, if you knew you could retrieve them, notifications have removed files and all you were doing with downloading temporarily and hope the file would be returned to the cloud. Which service are you on? Which service are you on? 99 is tempting, but I think I would only use it for backup. And I already have quite enough storage, I think, to back up what I would need to be backing up. I think beyond that, I actually need to sit down and come up with a strategy for doing it. And if I then decide that for redundancy, I want another system, then maybe take something like that on. It's not a bad deal, price-wise, but sometimes you might be better off with S3 because you're only paying for what you're using. So yes, that will increase over time, but the price will come down over time as well. So S3 elastic storage I use for certain things. So let's see if where Patricia's put these files. The one thing I would not do, and I know Renee does this, I would not be putting my files into iCloud. I did try it. I had 2 terabytes up there. That was the cloud storage I had the most storage in. So I thought, right, I'll go all in with iCloud. It didn't end well. There is literally no way to manage the things. So you can upload them and you can then download them on demand. That part's fine. I think it was the purging that I had problems with. When you come to try and control what is actually on your machine as opposed to what is in the cloud, you can demand the files be downloaded, but you can't necessarily purge them with any predictability, whereas all of the others can. So Google Drive is great at that. Dropbox is great at that. You've got the pCloud thing installed. I don't know if you've done a purge on it, where you only want the things on this particular machine in the cloud. The only option you've got with iCloud is, you please take over iCloud. You use my drive as you would think. And it does tell you that when you start to run out of disk space, they will remove files from your local drive. But they're lying. It doesn't happen. When they demand the files locally, they download. And maybe if the machine was left overnight, it would think, not got much local storage, I think I'll purge something. But if you run out of storage space because you're recording video or audio, it doesn't automatically think I'll free up some space by getting rid of those iCloud files. It just tells you you've run out of space. So if there was a better way to manage the files with iCloud, I might trust it more. There's also been an issue with iCloud since last October that they've finally admitted today, and they're saying they're working on a fix. But that took developers complaining since last October to get sorted. So that one is a bit of a problem at the moment.
Carol, it's at pcloud.com.
I don't think there's a deal on it at the moment, but there might be. Let's try Stack Social. Stack Social. They sometimes have deals, ongoing deals on it. But let's have a look. See if we can find a deal. What on earth is Olipop? Right. The one I took was about 3 years ago, I think, and it was the St. George's Day deal. No, I'm not seeing a deal on that at the moment, not from up there. But they do usually have a sale, as I say. They do a Black Friday deal, they do a Christmas deal, and they do a summer deal, I think, and they do the St. George's Day, which is the 23rd of April. But there isn't a deal on there right now, unfortunately. 8 terabytes, plenty big enough. I have twin 8TB drives, Renee. So they're named 8TB_01 and then 8TB_01BU1. Right, so it's backed up. So I started off and I had an 8TB drive and I thought, oh, that'll be great for years. And then I moved on to 8TB 02 and 03 and 04 and 05. Currently up to 07. I'm fast running out of space on it. I do, however, have about 1.5 terabytes of stuff that needs processing. So if I actually got round to that, we do have an Eagle demo. We had 2 of them and then I did another one. So let me find where they are. Let's do the PowerPointy thing. Right, and you're going to open. Awesome. Eagle. I think it was before Christmas. I do believe I brought it around Black Friday. So let's do an Eagle thing.
157.
Was it? I've got 155 here. Did I cover it or did I just mention it in 155? Let's have a look. 155.
Got mock-ups with Eagle in 1.5.
I started in 155, so you'll find these on the playlist or on the MacBites website under After Hours. So 155 was when it started, and I did it across 2, so 155 and 156, and then we covered a whole extra thing. There was managing the mock-ups, wasn't there, where I'd built an entire library with it. But that's proved quite popular, so I'm contemplating a live session on that. Not in After Hours, a separate live session. Oh, Carol, 3 4 terabyte discs full of photos. If are these backup, Carol? Is this isn't something you're trying to work with? You just want a copy of them off-site. The cheapest way to do that would be to use S3 and use what they call Glacier storage. The difference between Glacier storage and S3 is Glacier storage, you need to give them notification if you want access to it. And the longer notification you can afford to give them, the cheaper the storage is. So whereas it might cost like 4 pence for a unit, this Glacier storage costs like 0.4 pence. So it's like 10 times cheaper. So for something that is a backup of your backup of your backup, it's fantastic because it's much, much cheaper. I've got some stuff in Glacier storage that I hope I will never, ever need. But if I do, then I just put in a request and then wait like 4 hours and then I've got access to it. Good night, Renee. Oh, isn't that sweet? We're wonderful. We're wonderful. You're wonderful too, Renee. You use them often. If you want access to them on that basis, then S3 is the nearest, where you just download the file as you would from anything else. S3, when I looked at it, the only client that worked with it was ARQ. But unfortunately, that wasn't going to work for me. It did it as a backup, and it broke it up into weirdy files. It didn't just take your files and make a copy of them. It put them in its own ARQ proprietary format and then spread the love across S3 in fragments that only ARQ could then, when you wanted to download them. It was also charged per machine, so that was a no-no. But S3 is perfectly usable with something as simple as Cloud Mounter. So that actually, if you're wondering why it's called Glacier Store, S3 Elastic, it's elastic because you only pay for what you use. So if I just quickly show you what we've got here. Right, a Finder window. And down here is MacBites on S3. And you can see that icon is indicating that it's cloud mounted. And then when you look at this, the bingo cards, for example, are in that folder. So we would open that up and there's all the bingo cards. I'm only paying to store the individual cards. I'm not saying, oh, I need 10 terabytes or 20 terabytes. I'm not paying for anything like that. I pay for what we store. So we have everything on there, including the shows. Now, obviously, the shows, there's a lot of them. There's all the Maroons on there as well, which are actually hosted on FM. But these are mount points on S3, but I only pay for what I use. Elastic means if I need more storage, I don't have to order anything. I don't have to change plans. I just upload the stuff. And my storage expands elastically for as much as I want. But it's very manual by comparison to other services. So there's no client that will serve you up files on demand or anything like that. As you can see, I'm mounting MacBites and my own blog where I've got my videos and my newsletter content just as a drive. But that's using Cloud Mounter. But that works really well for that kind of data. We did have a hosting service for the podcast. To be honest, it was outrageously priced for how much storage we used at the time. So I remember saying to you, we'll bin it and we'll go S3, and then when it starts to cost more on S3, we'll switch back. And it's never started to cost more. So we've saved about £4,000 or £5,000 over the years by not having to say, this is the amount of storage that I want. It's just elastic. Just keep uploading whatever you want. Oh, and there's my 8 terabyte 07 and my 07 backup. And I still have 06 mounted as well, and another 5 in the cupboard plus 5 backups. Oh, data. There's just too much of it, isn't there? Right, okay. Let's switch to that. And have we got any more questions, or is that it?
Patricia says, I need to download Procreate files and PDFs to use on Mac Mini and iPad Pro. What happens when I upload a file to Dropbox, download it to my iPad? Will it disappear from the cloud?
No,
it won't.
No, you will. You treat Dropbox in that case that's where the file lives, and that's it. So when you download it, when you finish editing it, it will upload the changes. So you only have one copy of the file to concern yourself with, depending on how Procreate works. So if Procreate works where it downloads it, and you make the changes locally, and they are saved locally, and you then have to push that back up, then yes, that's going to be a bit messy, unfortunately. But generally how Dropbox works with something like Office, if I open a Word file on my iPad from Dropbox, I don't have any file management concerned when I save that file. But Procreate might work differently. I don't know. I have not looked at Procreate in years. Oh, Arc has gone subscription. To add insult to injury, you mean? Oh, right, let's take a look at this. Tony says, can I scroll back up to the question about DevonThink, local sync store? Right, hang on, let me see that. Didn't see that question. Keep going, keep going. Where's this question?
I couldn't find it.
I got Graham mentioning it. Scrap the Evernote subscription due today in favour of DevonThink. Still on version 2. Don't move from version 2, Graham. Version 3 will nuke your version 2 license. Oh, it's not pretty. It's not. I can't find this question. How far up was it? Good grief. I'm still going. I am not seeing this question. I'm now back up to when I was in the middle of the demo. I'm not seeing the question. Can you pop it in again? I do cover what you were talking about. Let me have a look here. Where are we? Tony. I do cover the local sync thing. It was towards the end of the series. It was either the last session or the one before that. So I do cover it, and I also cover doing it via pCloud, because that's popular amongst the MacBiters. So I did cover that as well. Right, let me get the transmit from Panic. Yes, I have transmit set up to work with it. Thing that really grieved me about transmit was they had a system inside the app where it did the job that Cloud Mounter does. So you could have, like, I forget what they called it, but basically a mount point, and leave it open permanently, and they deprecated it. So I was peeved with that. But I do use Transmit. If I'm uploading a lot of files, I will tend to use Transmit because Cloud Mounter is caching them locally. And if anything upsets it, it can lose where it was up to in terms of uploading. So if it's 1 or 2 files, I'll do it, just drag and drop it in the Finder. But if it's a lot of files, I'll use Transmit. It's just more stable for that. I just wish they'd bring back that system they have. Oh, that was fantastic. But they're no longer. Question was, you put the local sync store on Scratch. I think I did. Yes, I did. I have a drive called the Scratch Drive. There has been a photograph of this Scratch Drive. You may remember there was a fiasco with it. Isn't there always? The fiasco with this one was I had this 1 terabyte SSD on the back of my iMac. It sat on a shelf, one of the 12 South shelves on an iMac. And it was fine and dandy. It was wonderful. And it died. And I thought, oh no, the Scratch Drive's dead. That's a calamity because that's where my Parallels VM is installed. So it got left there until I found the will to fix it. So I dragged it out from behind the machine, and as I was taking it off the shelf, I noticed how hot it was. Now, obviously, an SSD doesn't get that hot, so why was this SSD that hot? And it turned out that the computer was generating that much heat. I thought, I wonder if the drive is dead, or if the box is dead. So I took the SSD out of the case it was in, the little cradly thing, and it was the case. So that was good news, because replacing the drive would have been £120. Replacing the case was $7.99. So I replaced the case, but then obviously I couldn't put it on this shelf because it would get over hot. So I remember showing you in a presentation what I'd done with it. And I'd basically got some string that you would wrap gifts with, you know, like rustic string you would wrap a gift with. And I'd wrapped my hard drive in it and left a hook at the top, and I hooked it over a light behind my iMac, but not necessarily where the heat's coming out. So my Scratch disk hangs off there all the time. That's my fastest local backup. So yes, I put it on there. So Tony says, I don't have Scratch, so I put it on Dropbox. But are you right in thinking that was the wrong place, as you did the Uncle Fester folder on Dropbox too? Oh, well, you're not really backing it up if you can't. If you're using it on Dropbox and you're backing it up to Dropbox and you lose access to Dropbox, then that's not really a backup. So basically, anywhere else would be a good idea to put it. Anywhere else. You can get. You don't need that much storage to create the local sync store. So maybe a pen drive would do it for a start. Question is, what folder should the local sync be in, or location should the local sync? Really up to you. I put mine on the Scratch drive because I was saving space on the main hard drive. So if you've got a pen drive or something that you could put in there, you could even use that. You need to consider how much data it is that you're storing in there. Also, the workflow needs to be considered. Where are the files going when you're scanning them or adding them to DevonThink? And then make sure that they're backed up along the process. Let me have a look at what I put and how I set it up, and I'll get back. Might put that in for this week for me to have a look at. What backups did I mention? And I will get back to you with that, Tony. Paul's got the DevonThink databases on Dropbox, but in a folder that doesn't sync back to the local. Selective sync on the free account. Is selective sync on the free account? There is something that's not available on the free account. But basically, it's if your databases are local, which mine are, then it's where you're going to put those databases as a backup, and that should not be on your local hard drive or on a service that is the only service that you're using. So I think Kim was backing up to pCloud, but the databases were local. So basically have a sync store that's sending it to somewhere else other than the primary place where you're using it. Okay, I think we're done with questions, aren't we? Oh, flowcharts. Flowcharts. Patricia's mentioned flowcharts. There's a lot of people looking to replace Evernote, isn't there? I think Evernote have lost the plot. When they added in Calendar Sync, I'm like, what for? You're a notes app. Really? The stuff they're adding is like not the stuff that I want to use. They've given me a deal. I've not actually looked at it yet because it's live till Monday. Upping me to one level up, because I'm grandfathered on something. It's not the pro level. It's the one below that, the personal thing. But they've knocked 50% off it. I thought, losing people, are we? But I just think the things they've added are ludicrous by comparison to what we actually want. Because those who've used Evernote for that long have got a list of shopping list of what they want, as long as your left leg. And I can guarantee you that synchronising with Google Calendar wasn't top of my list, nor were the other things they've added. We've added this home thing and there's widgets in it. And you're like, can you just support Markdown? The things that would really impact using it for notes, instead of adding all sorts to it. It's now like, instead of a sleek sports car, it's like Wallace and Gromit with 14 sidecars. It really is not pretty. I don't know whether I'd replace Evernote with DevonThink, though. I think of DevonThink in a different way. And there's also a million online services that I would probably switch to. We need to think about workflows, don't we? And outlining some workflows. That would work. But I will take a look at what I said. Paul's got the free account and they're offering you 50% as well. That would say to me that people are leaving, and I'm not surprised. And I would suggest where they're going is probably Obsidian. Obsidian's totally free. You only need to worry about how you're going to synchronise it. And because it's standard Markdown files, if you change your mind on Obsidian, you can go to wherever you like. So I really think people are looking at that. Obsidian for notes and maybe even, could you leave Evernote with it? You probably could, but your trouble would be getting the stuff out of it. I'll have a ponder with that. Because we did have a request for Obsidian, didn't we?
We did.
And I felt that would be not, what's the word we use here? Not Jonock. Show no integrity because I wasn't using it. But then, if you remember, Notion had an outage and it was out. I mean, if it was out for 5 minutes, fine. But it was out for like 4.5 hours, by which time I downloaded, installed and configured Obsidian. So when it came back, it was like, oh, hello, you're back, are you? And I'd totally done that week's work in Obsidian. Honestly, within 4 hours, I had like 80 files and I was working away with it. So Obsidian might not be a bad thing because at the moment, there's a lot of people moving from Rome. Rome being £15 a month or 500 for 5 years. I can see people running away screaming. So Obsidian is free for personal use. They make their money with the sync charges and the publishing option. You can make donations with it. I don't know if I think they've said it will never be 100% paid for, that there will always be a free option. That doesn't mean the full version will always be free, but there will always be a free option. And at the moment, I think they're doing quite nicely with the fact that it is free. And I think it is viable to replace Evernote with that, depending on how you use Evernote. So if you are a big user of PDFs and you want to highlight things in the PDF, then no, Obsidian probably isn't the way. But there is another app called Logseq that is. Now, Logseq is basically Obsidian, but with PDF support. And the PDF support is you can highlight the PDFs and then your notes come through to your notes, if you will. So what you've highlighted in the PDFs comes through to your plain text notes that you're working with. But, one solution isn't going to fit everybody, but it's an option. Can you send web clips to Obsidian? What sort of things do you mean? Let me go up a bit and take this down. Hang on. Graham says, I don't have Evernote Plus, couldn't rearrange the home panel without upgrading. Yeah, now that's the thing I mean. They've put this home panel there. What gets me with that is it keeps going to it and I don't want to see it. This is useless to me. It also took 4.5 hours to configure itself on an iPad about 2 weeks ago. So that upset me greatly as well. I could probably take everything I've got in Evernote and put it in DevonThink and be done with it. Right. The newish guy at Evernote has spent too much money and needs to get some funds back before they're in trouble. Yeah, I know the guy you mean. That's Ian. And I think when he took over, it was a sinking ship. And I think he did really well that it didn't die a death, to be honest. And 18 months in, it was like, well, we're rebuilding it from the bottom up. And when it came out, it was garbage. Evernote 10 was absolute tripe. To the point, I still have audio files in it that will no longer play. And when do you remember me reading that thing out to you? It was a support ticket, something about support for audio in Evernote. And I swear to you, it would be worth me finding it. It was that much of a farce. If you record it on an iPad, it records in MP3 and you can play that back on the Mac. If you record it on Android, it records in something like Vorbis or something. And then you can't play that back on a Mac, but you can play it back on a PC. And in the end, I've said to Mike, you'd be quicker to just type it, wouldn't it? Instead of using audio. So I don't think he covered himself with glory with Evernote 10. But then he hasn't, because that came out easy 18 months ago. He's not done much with it since either, to pull it back to where it was. So, and then, now is not the time to be adding new features and fancy dashboards until you've got the core functionality sorted, and you haven't. And if you had, then you wouldn't have Evernote Legacy app, would you? So you're using an old version to have the functionality you had before. And now they're holding my notes hostage until I pay more. Well, that's not happening. So we'll see how we go. I think with that, no. Evernote have lost ground to Obsidian. Greatly lost ground to Obsidian. Speaking Notion, can you access Notion via the app when the internet isn't available? No, Paul. There is still no offline access. This is why people love Obsidian, because it's local. It does. Everything's local. And it's plain Markdown files and they're yours. So Obsidian is the app of the moment in relation to that. Is Obsidian an outliner? No, Carol, it wasn't. And then they added the ability that you could outline in it. I must admit, that was the thing that put me off. I am so used to, it's Bo's fault. I am so used to going in there and pressing enter and tab, and then tab and tab. And everything's beautifully structured. And then I look at Obsidian, and I must have been like 2 days in, and I thought, I can't indent. The thing was, it was letting me indent because I was in edit mode. But it's got this WYSIWYG thing going on now. It didn't have then. So you either had to be in edit mode, where things were indented, or viewing mode, and they weren't. And I thought, I can't use it. If it didn't have the indents, I can't use it. The thing with Obsidian is you have got 1 million plugins, what they call community plugins, and that will enable you to get the thing to do anything. It just then depends on what you want it to do. But at a plain level, in terms of if your notes are text-based, and they might have bold, italic and underline, but they're mainly text-based, you making notes on something, then Obsidian is viable, definitely viable. But if you are clipping from the web, then it depends what it actually looks like as to how effective that clipping would be. So it can do it, Tracy, but what that would actually look like, you're going to need to lose the mentality of Evernote, which the best feature of Evernote is the clipper. But we can certainly have a look at it and see what it can do. You'd have taken a break for 4 hours. Well, I sat there for 10 minutes and thought, do you know, you really cannot do anything when Notion is down. And the thing is, it's not just Notion being down, is it? Notion themselves could be down. Their cloud services could be down, so that's Cloudflare. There could be something wrong with S3, so the Amazon Web Services could be down. Or your internet connection could be down. And all of those would render you unable to do any work at all. And that was quite a moment, wasn't it? Didn't we at that point decide we might need to switch to something? I think we did. So I had to do something else, and I thought, I think it's time to look at Obsidian. It'd be a good time to download it and have a look. Right, that is Tracy's main use of Evernote. That's my main use of Evernote as well, Tracy, so I hear you, and I still use Evernote for that. But I just don't want to upgrade in any kind of... Even if they're offering me 50% off, I'd have a look to see if it was cheaper than what I'd got. but it's still not giving me, as far as I'm concerned, there's too many plans now. They're not giving me what I had before. So why don't you just give me what I had before, preferably for less? Let's have a look. The only reason you've kept Evernote is to click the website starts behind a login. If you're trying to clip something, it depends what format you want it in. It really does depend what format you want it in. Because you could, what I've taken to doing, I was using a clipper just to clip a page that was like a receipt for something with stock, so stock imagery. And they changed their website and it will not clip. None of the clip options work. You get half a page. And I just looked at Eagle and I thought, I wonder. So I used the full page clipper from Eagle and it clipped it. Now, obviously, it's clipped it as a graphic. But there's nothing to stop me taking that into any one of a number of apps that will OCR it. So it depends the format you actually want to keep the thing in the end. If you're happy to take a graphic and then OCR it, then you could do it a different way other than relying on that. But, there is a free option for Evernote and you can use the clipper. So if that still works best, then do it that way. Evernote's bringing them in as a table. Oh, in that case, you're not really going to get that, are you? Depends on what you use to OCR it. Something like Adobe Acrobat DC has great ability to take OCR'd content and put like a map over the top of it. It's got accessibility requirements and, options in it that can do amazing things, but it isn't going to turn it back into editable HTML, no. But Eagle is fantastic in terms of when you tell it, once you've got your shortcut keys set up, you've got multiple options to get something into Eagle as a graphic. So I already had my Control Shift and 4, and I had Control Shift and C, which sent it to Snagit. And now I've got Control Command and Option, full stop, to send it to Eagle. And I've also got the extension within a browser where I can capture the website itself straight to Eagle. I can capture the viewable area to Eagle. I can capture the scrollable area to Eagle. Or I can actually draw around a bit that I want to capture. And even better than that, I've got the batch option. So when I'm trying to, like tonight, I had some images. Let me show you that. Let's move that out of the way and get another page there and get it shared and show you what it did. Okay, let's drag that across there. No, not onto that screen. Come on. Don't be silly. Right, let's get that up there. And it was creative. It was the free font thing. Let's go there and make sure you can see my screen. Right. So I was here and I was looking at the free fonts. And where was the one I was looking at? Like Super Space. Right. In here, I needed these images. Now, I could right click and save image as. I've also got the option to right click and... Ooh, the Eagle option isn't available. But I could try dragging them, but you'll see it doesn't let me do that properly. So I thought, well, if I just go to Eagle and I do the batch save, let me open Eagle. And it will put everything it finds on this page into Eagle. So let me get that there and do that again. So batch save to Eagle. Right, it pops that over the top. So this here, these are the images that I wanted, all of those, and it was really simple to grab them. I can look down here, there's other stuff if I wanted to capture any of this, or what characters there were. And all I did with that then, I'm not going to import them because I've already done it once. But if you look down here, somewhere, there they all are. So I couldn't actually easily grab that. I guess the other way to grab it, if I hadn't been able to do that, would have been to draw around it. So I could say capture area, but if I do that, I will be able to get the image, but I'll also get the share and the Pinterest thing on it. And I don't particularly want that. So I didn't do that. That will have grabbed that. Hang on, where have you disappeared to? There it is. So, yep, that would add it just by drawing around it. The page one is fantastic as well. This is a page one that I selected. So that one there, we zoom out of that. I took the whole page. I didn't need the whole page, but I could then crop that once I got it into PowerPoint, which was what I did. But it captures the whole page beautifully. And then I can do my little scroll thing. So the first panel of this that we saw went up to about here. And then the second panel took me down to it being on setup. So I have about 9 different ways now to capture stuff. But most of it, if it doesn't need editing, it goes straight into Eagle. And that way, I don't really have to organise it in any kind of way. I can go down here and I can look at the images that I've needed for tonight's presentation, which were all that lot. There they are. I've got last week's images, and they are all there. Normally, I'd put those in a folder, but it's just easier to have them in here. And because I can put these smart folders underneath folders, easier still. Okay, let's switch back to that. And I think we're all questioned out, aren't we? Where's the live stream page? There we go. I hope you've captured all of this, Mike. I've got things to look up for Devon thinking all kinds of stuff. Night, Graham.
I captured the stuff for Devon Think.
Excellent. Apps of the week. Devon Think, Snagit, PDF Expert, Yoink, and the new ScanSnap scanner. Excellent. Sounds fantastic. That's what you want, the whole page. The thing with getting the whole page, Carol, at least if you do it into Eagle, it's exactly what you're looking at. There's no compromise. It depends if you want to extract the data. Now, if you do, that needn't be diabolically difficult, need it? If you've grabbed something, you can capture the text using Text Sniper, which is another way to think about it, which I use all the time. So if I've grabbed a whole page and then I want to capture some text out the page, and obviously it's an image, and I don't want to piddle around OCRing it, then just use Text Sniper, which is OCR on the fly. I use quite a few out, but workflows is what we need. Workflows, because I've got a million workflows. That's what we need to do. If you don't need to extract it, then you will get a perfect capture, which to me is priceless. Because then, you know, even if I capture it into Evernote or something, it's not quite perfect. It's like, oh, that one's a web page and that one wasn't. And then I'm like, it's all right. You can read it. It'll do. But what I've started doing with these, when I get stock images, I need the license. And that's what I was trying to capture. And it was doing all kinds of stuff. So if I just take a screen cap, a full page one, I get the entire license and all of the details. And I don't have to worry that I'm not going to be able to read it in the future, or it's locked into Evernote and then I can't see my data. Okay. Right. Shall we head off? It's late. Let's head off. We will be back with you next week, of course, but it will be Saturday. Don't forget, it'll be Saturday. Evernote was a swine for making changes. Do you remember when they decided everybody should use one font? This was about 2010, and it caused complete havoc. Oh, no, it's not good. Evernote have moved away from what they were, and unfortunately, to me, they've not moved to a better place. They've just moved to this kind of mongrel place where now it's not the best note-taking app. It's not the best at anything anymore. It's 10% of the way there in one thing and 20% in the way there of something else, but it's not on its own fabulous anymore. That has got to go to Obsidian these days. Right, okay then. I am heading off. $40 lifetime on the Stack Social website. Is it safe? Stack Social is fairly safe. Mike's had issues with them. Do you remember when was it you couldn't get your PayPal working or something?
They sorted it.
But they're
legit.
They're legit. Just as Tracy says, do be careful. Read it. Some say lifetime deals, and it turns out to be the lifetime of this particular version, and they're already on X.9.999. So just read the details carefully. Right, okay, then we are going to head off. So, for the moment, it's good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time on Saturday. Stay safe, guys.